climate and everything are the same word.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
China? China? I have to have my China. Zuckerbucks.
Consequences.
So hot right now.
Follow the rich white man.
Don't be creepy.
climate and everything are the same.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's get the pace off for him.
It's science.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
He looks good, and he looks hard. Cal?
Close it up, just like my wife's vagina.
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
It's science.
Phrasing.
I see that you know your judo well.
Are you not entertained?
Follow the rich white man.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's get the pace off for him.
Oh, son of a bitch, I was muted. Good God. It's me, StreamLord, talking to you here from the Galactic Space Station. Got a lot to look at, so I better get right to it. Buckle up those seatbelts, space fans. About to take a little ride through the void. By the way, I've decided it's no longer Monday here in space. It's Moonday. Alright. Well, looks like we're gonna start in the United States as usual. This one, well, perhaps expectedly, we're gonna start off with situation in Pennsylvania involving gun violence. This is from the AP from 10 hours ago. Man attempts to shoot pastor during sermon in Pennsylvania. Jesus Christ. Ridiculous. And the thing is the gun jammed. You can hear him pull the trigger on it there. It's a little quiet.
It is expected to be a...
Shh. Be quiet, CBS. I'm talking. But yeah, you can hear him pull the trigger. He just by, well, I mean, it is in a church, but it seems to be almost miraculous that pastor wasn't shot.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
Okay, moving along. It's a shocking end to a story of gun violence here at the Galactic News Network. They are almost always terrible endings. Got lucky today. Alright, let's move on. 6 hours ago, from CBS News, Speaker Johnson expected to meet with MTG before ouster vote. Alright, now you may speak, CBS. Thank you.
It is expected to be a very busy week on Capitol Hill. CBS News has learned that House Speaker Mike Johnson is expected to meet with Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene today. Of course, she is the representative who's been threatening to move forward with a resolution to oust the House Speaker from his post. Let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian for more from Capitol Hill. Nicole, great to have you. So what do we know about when this resolution to vote could happen?
Well, it remains to be seen. Obviously, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene indicated that she intended to invoke that motion to vacate sometime this week. And as you referenced, we do now know that the Congresswoman intends to meet with Speaker Johnson later this afternoon. So whether or not that changes her course of action remains to be seen, although she has really been keeping up the drumbeat against Speaker Johnson, again suggesting that he is too closely aligned with Democrats, that you have a so-called uniparty that is controlling the House of Representatives, and so that is why she has continued to argue for his ouster.
Hey, Stefan. Good to see you. How am I? Are you asking me how am I a reputable news source person? I'm more of a commentator than a news source. I think I've made that clear on a number of occasions, but yeah, I mean, we're looking at the news. We're trying to get as close to sources, like first sources as possible, primary sources, if you will. But I'm not on the ground reporting the news. I'm not a real news person. I'm just an editorial type of individual. I curate the news in this fashion we do here from space. And yeah, that's all I can claim to be. I'm not a journalist.
I want to talk about what last time we saw Mike Johnson around here in New York. He was at Columbia University. He issued a statement now criticizing Columbia's decision to cancel commencement ceremony as a result of the protests. Why has this become such a hot topic among lawmakers?
Well, I think for the same reason it continues to be a very passionate issue on many of these campuses. And let's not forget that the House held hearings on this issue of the rise in anti-Semitism on college campuses late last year. So
the way that
certainly, given some of the unrest that we have seen on college campuses, that has really intensified Congress's examination of this issue. Just last week, of course, the House passed legislation related to this, and then you have a number of hearings that...
You know, I hadn't heard this term uniparty until recently, and now I've heard it like 3 times in 1 week.
Will continue on this front, including this week, with several hearings focused on, for instance, some encampments that have arisen at George Washington University here in the nation's capital, and even expanding this probe beyond college campuses to K through 12 schools as well.
I wonder about the politics.
Wow. Got to make sure that the children can't say Free Palestine too, of course.
Because I want to remind viewers, because that's, you know, I've been covering the protests. The encampment was started at Columbia University because of the hearing. The hearing was happening. Students knew that the hearing was going to take place. They saw what happened with presidents of other universities like Harvard, and they decided to do the encampment.
I gotta say, this is her most accurate take that I've heard for, like, because I've heard a bunch of different takes from, and I actually don't know her name, but this woman in the red, very red suit jacket with serious shoulder pads going on here. I've heard her say a lot of ignorant shit, but that is the most correct thing she said up till now. And it's actually the most fair and balanced thing, I would say, she said up till now about the protests, in that they had an objective from the beginning, and they made it clear. The rest of the time, it seems like everybody is just acting completely ignorant of the matter, as if there isn't plenty of footage to look at.
In a way to protest not just the war in Gaza, but to issue their demands. So that's what started the encampment. Then the protests, as we've seen, have continued throughout the country. So politically, how has the narrative and the discourse around these protests served lawmakers, and how are they addressing this politically leading into the election?
Yeah, well, even then, too, with that hearing with Columbia University's president several weeks ago, we saw some congressional Republicans within that hearing condemn those encampments at Columbia as they were being set up. So,
okay, I forgot that the rest of this was just complaining about the encampments. That's on me. You can't believe that she's as partisan as she is and also say that it's all one party. No kidding. The fact is that she's complaining about a very right-wing, like a bunch of very right-wing or conservative sort of policies that have been agreed upon by Democrats and Republicans, and then complaining about uniparty, when it's basically just stuff that I'm pretty sure she genuinely agrees with to some degree. Although there is the Ukraine situation, which she really, really hates. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at this real quick piece here from AP from 7 hours ago, where a judge has warned Trump of possible jail time for his 10th gag order violation. 10. It's a normal number, right?
Donald Trump was warned again on Monday that he could go to jail if he keeps violating the gag order in his hush money criminal trial. New York Judge Juan M. Merchan, in his most explicit warning to date, said that it is clear the legal maximum fine allowed of $1,000 per violation isn't working. The judge said to Trump, "The last thing I want to do is put you in jail.
Why?
You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well. There are many reasons why incarceration is truly a last resort to me. To take that step would be disruptive to these proceedings." And the magnitude of such a decision, he said...
I'm sorry. That statement to me is just insane, right? I don't know why I switched screens for this, but because I think it feels like I got a bunch to say about this fucking shit. What the fuck is this judge talking about? Can you explain this to me? Because how many people are left in jail during their trial? Like, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's high, right? Like, there's a lot of people. We've talked about it before in terms of like the bail system in America, right? And there's a lot of people who can't afford to get themselves out on bail, right? And so how would Trump being in jail somehow be disruptive to a trial? It makes no sense. I've never heard of this objection from anyone, let alone a judge.
Not lost on me. However, Judge Merchan said that his duty is to the integrity of the trial and the integrity of justice. And he says that Trump has been undermining that with his repeated rhetoric about witnesses and about the jury in this case.
Jesus Christ. And for minor crimes, too. Exactly. People in jail for, you know, possessing marijuana, right? Still happens in the United States because it's not federally legal. There's plenty of states where it's illegal to have it. Yeah, you know, you go to jail, you can't pay your bail, and you're stuck there. And no judges are complaining about that in any of these circumstances, from my understanding. Maybe I'm just living in some sort of alternate reality, but no, I don't think so. All right, let's move on to this. Talking a little bit more about his hush money trial, but in a little bit more detail. Actually, I think I'm going to cue this one up because it's like 7 minutes long. I don't want to watch this whole fucking thing.
In just a
Alright, let's start from like right here, I guess.
Is, but as y'all pointed out, it's a slip of the tongue, and prosecutors won't focus too heavily on something like that. This case isn't about one witness or one piece of evidence. It's about all of the circumstantial evidence that this was not a payment for legal fees, that it was...
No, we're moving further forward. Fuck that.
Emotional on the stand in the civil fraud trial when he testified for multiple days, and he testified that it was emotional, and the reason he left after 35 years, the Trump organization, was because he was tired of having arrows focused on him as if he was engaged in wrongdoing. Ultimately, he was found liable stemming from the civil fraud suit for insurance fraud, and he was barred by Judge Engoron from serving in a leadership capacity for a period of time for any corporation here in the state of New York. And so, yet again here, 1 year later, he is back on the stand again in front of Donald Trump. And the difficulty here for McConney was the extent to which he was working as essentially a middleman between Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer, who we do not expect to hear from as a witness as he served time in Rikers jail here in New York, stemming from perjury, guilty plea from the civil fraud trial, and the extent to which he testified here today that he was taking orders from Weisselberg and was working to ensure that Michael Cohen got invoices to them so that he could be compensated with $35,000 checks over the course of 2017. And when you hit on the conversation around the reimbursement, right, he didn't acknowledge and testify today that he was even aware of exactly what the reimbursement was for. At the same time, the prosecution, with him on the stand, brought forward a financial disclosure report that
an orange jumpsuit would be camouflage. You know what that just reminded me of? I don't know if you've seen Arrested Development, but that reminded me of Tobias Funke, like when he starts using it, because he goes because he has the all the blue shit from trying to be part of the Blue Man Group, but then he just starts painting himself up in different ways to hide, like while stalking his wife. That's exactly what they remind me.
Trump filed and signed himself in 2018 that showed within that very document, quote, the following: Mr. Cohen sought reimbursement of those expenses, and Mr. Trump fully reimbursed Mr. Cohen in 2017. So for Donald Trump and their defense team, they're dealing with the difficulty here that they have a close ally to Donald Trump, the 35-year employee, testifying that he knew it was a reimbursement, and they're also dealing with a document that Donald Trump signed calling it a reimbursement here. So this is difficult as we get into the minutia of the falsification of business records charges against Donald Trump.
Yeah, so it's not just testimony, it's literal, it's written down on paper that Trump signed a piece of paper that essentially laid out all of this shit. It is so condemning in my mind. Like, who even signs that sort of thing? Jesus Christ. Wow. Okay. Now let's look at this here. Alright, we're going to look quickly at the presidential election. When I saw this, I found it, well, somewhat troubling. This is from 9 hours ago. Biden and Trump in close race with 6 months until presidential election.
Well, we are now just 6 months away from the 2024 presidential election, and the latest CBS News polling shows it's currently a close race between President Joe Biden and former President Trump. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News political director Finn Gomez.
No, we're good on you, Gomez. This is all I wanted. This is where the polls are at right now. Okay? And do I have 10,000 objections to Joe Biden? Yeah. But in no way should Donald Trump be winning by 4% right now in the polls. Now, nobody's asking me about my personal opinions, but yeah. That's really all I wanted to look at. Okay, their analysis is nearly useless. Okay, what is next? Okay, we're gonna quickly look at this. This is from 3 days ago, from Second Thought. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube channel before, but if you're not, you should definitely subscribe. It's got some very good takes in general. In this piece that he's done, he asks the question, is the U.S. headed towards fascism? Hey.
And 10% active.
God damn it, why are you starting in the middle of this? I don't appreciate that at all. I had a plan. Whoops, not what I meant to do.
Consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. So it was Easter recently. At time of writing, at least. These videos take a while to make. Cut me some slack.
Was that a 60 plus poll? Interesting. I did not catch that. If that's true, doesn't sound like it's representative of the whole population then.
At time of writing, at least. These videos take a while to make. Cut me some slack. Anyway, what do you think of when you hear the word Easter? Springtime, Easter bunny, candy, resurrection of Jesus for our Christian comrades, and of course, These little guys. I have great memories of Easter egg hunts with my family, and now that I have a young daughter of my own, I'm excited to give her the same experience. So imagine my surprise when we go to the neighborhood playground on Easter, and there are a handful of adults trying to keep kids from picking up a bunch of eggs. Seemed a little weird. So I asked one of them what was going on, and they said, better not to look inside. So naturally, I had to look inside.
Of course.
Here's what I found.
Of course.
Science.
Even for someone...
Do you see this right here? Granted, he is thoughtfully blurred out the racist part of this flyer. But can you imagine being a parent and having your kid pick up something like this? Are you, like, this disturbs me to the core, right? Read that. I can't read it out loud, but look at it. This is fucking disgusting. On a playground? On Easter? This is, I mean, one of the most abhorrent things I can imagine somebody doing. Now, granted, we are confronted with a bunch of just insane garbage every day at this channel, but what in the fuck is this?
Who keeps tabs on these freaks for a living, this was a little shocking. We live in a quiet suburb, there's never any trouble. And yet here we were, standing somewhere designed for children to play, picking up Easter eggs with fascist rhetoric inside. And if you think about it, this one little Easter egg is indicative of the whole fascist undercurrent in the US. Let's unpack what's going on here. I think we should start with a quick rundown of the Proud Boys and the other fascist groups in the US, because the state of official fascist organizations has changed over the last few years. The Proud Boys are an exclusively male hate group operating in the US and Canada. Besides their deeply funny no girls allowed rule, these losers are big proponents of the white genocide myth, the idea that white people, a designation that seems to fluctuate whenever convenient, are being replaced by encroaching hordes of nebulously ethnic babies. The group has been described as an alt-right fight club, conservative extremists, alt-light, overtly Islamophobic and misogynistic, and all too willing to embrace racists, anti-Semites, and bigots of all kinds. They've engaged in political violence, attended the January 6th insurrection, and have been banned from pretty much every social media platform. Officially, the Canadian arm of the organization shut down after being rightly labeled a terrorist group. The Proud Boys were established in 2016, spearheaded by Gavin McInnes, one of the co-founders of Vice. Over the next few years, they went through a handful of leaders, the most recent being this guy, Enrique Tarrio, who in 2023 was sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in the insurrection. Tarrio is a Miami Cuban, which tells you pretty much all you need to know as far as his politics goes. But it came out during his trial that he was also an informant for the feds, which led to a schism in the Proud Boys, who just couldn't believe that one of their own would work for the evil government. Gotta love how naive these people are. When the judge delivered the sentence, Tarrio begged the court, "Please show me mercy. I ask that you not take my 40s from me." That's how quickly the Tough Guy Act crumbled.
What a baby. Alright, there's more to this, but this is a very long video. And I think you're all pretty familiar with many of these hate groups and terrorists. But let's move on to this part of it. I'm gonna try and hit the most relevant, important parts of this video.
Combining traditional Americana with fascist symbolism. In every successful...
Whoops, I meant to go back slightly. There we go.
It would be Patriot Front. For a bunch of reactionaries, they're pretty good at branding, combining traditional Americana with fascist symbolism. In every successful past fascist movement, that's been a key element. It takes on the flavor of whatever culture it boils up in. You've probably heard the quote, "When fascism comes to America, it'll be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross." Case in point. Patriot Front is another group that punches above its weight in terms of membership. Best estimates put the number at just 200. But they accounted for 82% of all incidents in 2021 that involved the distribution of fascist, racist, or otherwise bigoted propaganda in the US. If you zoom out a bit, this is all kind of interesting. You've got your fraternity, your militias, your street thugs, and your propagandists. That's a pretty well-developed fascist undercurrent, even if, for now, they seem to be licking their...
I almost forgot to give you all but I've decided to now start rolling dice for this, so I got a 6-sided dice. We got 6 different support characters right now. Number 4. Who's 4? Who is 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Jessica Fletcher is gonna start it off here. By the way, we're only like 1 or 2 likes away from hitting a second character. I just figured we'd make things more interesting by randomizing who we get.
What happens when they start organizing across the different groups? Speculation aside, the important thing to realize about American fascism is that it's not confined to this handful of explicitly fascist groups. It's become mainstream among the American right.
Yep.
Let me give you an example. Here's an ex-military business owner back during peak COVID.
But it's not going to be peaceful much longer, okay? And this isn't a threat. I'm not a criminal. I've never been a criminal. But I'm telling you that good citizens are going to turn into real concerned and revolutionary citizens real soon. And nobody else is going to say that. I'm probably the only person that has the balls to say what I'm saying right now. That we're building, we're organizing, and we'll work with law enforcement or without law enforcement. But you won't stop us when time comes because our families are starving. And if you don't hear the seriousness of my voice, I hope you open your ears and you absolutely listen to what I'm saying. Because this is a warning for what's coming. It's not going to be peaceful much longer. It's not going to be rah-rah. It's not going to be speeches. It's not going to be gathered outside saying a Pledge of Allegiance. It's not going to be waving flags. It's going to be real. When you've seen the things that I've seen, I went to war for this country. I've seen the ugliest, dirtiest part of humanity. I've been in combat, and I never want to go back again. But I'm telling you what, I will to save this country. If it has to be against our own citizens, it will happen. And there's a million people like me, and you won't stop us.
That dude is super troubling. This sort of thinking right here. And this is the sort of thing, people who aren't necessarily affiliated with these organizations still hold these sorts of fucking beliefs.
Sounds pretty bad, but this is exactly the type of person we saw at the Capitol riot. All the fascist groups were there. At least 700 members of their organizations got arrested. But they were a drop in the bucket compared to what most people would call average conservatives. Only around 13% of those charged in the Capitol riots were formal members of militant groups like the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, and the Oath Keepers. The remaining 87% were a mix of garden-variety Trump supporters and conservatives LARPing as revolutionaries. The overwhelming majority of people who stormed the Capitol were just average Republicans. And you can tell. They didn't look like the typical far-right extremists. They were typically older, with around 2/3 being over 35. They were much less likely to be unemployed. A full 14% of the attendees charged were business owners, and 30%...
You have 20 likes? Oh, okay, hold on. Let me do this. Okay. 3, who is 3? Cisco, okay. Wait, no, Cisco? Is that Cisco? Did I do this wrong? Oh, it's different on some of these, the way I have it set up. Which one should I go by? We're gonna do this one. I gotta fix that. Hold on, move this like that. Okay, there you go. Captain Planet and Jessica Fletcher.
White-collar workers. These aren't normal far-right extremist demographics. These are just Republican constituency demographics. That's why fascists target the suburbs, as we mentioned earlier. The aggrieved white middle class is ripe for radicalization. The average American conservative wants to overthrow the government to establish some weird anti-woke theocracy based on a mythologized version of the past. And don't—
So true. So true. This whole video is just so on point. I wish we could watch the whole thing together, but that just wouldn't be right. Where's the part that I wanted to catch at the end here? Let's see, right around here. Probably get used to do it.
Set. The problem is the solution he and other fascists land on is to exterminate or deport anyone deemed to be detrimental to white people making money and keeping their privileged position. Or, in their eyes, prevent hardworking patriots from losing economic ground because their opportunities are being stolen by foreigners. The economic base of fascism has always been the petit bourgeois, or as I like to call them, the roofing class, small business owners, The guys who have a handful of contractors and pay $1,200 a month on an F-150 Raptor that's never been used for any kind of manual labor. But I digress. I really try my best to understand fascists because it's an interesting phenomenon.
The Raptor.
Socialism offers, in my opinion, a common sense solution to the ills of capitalism. Economic democracy. The people who do the work have a say in how the work is done, and profits can't be siphoned off by unelected corporate tyrants. Fascism, on the other hand, has to create this elaborate fantasy to justify
Chat Raptors are better than Ford Raptors. That's just a fact.
One particular group of people is destined to inherit the Earth. And conveniently, it's the people in your country and the group you happen to fall into. It's the same gripe I have with Calvinists. They believe that all humans are predestined to go to either heaven or hell, and nothing we do can influence that destiny. I've never met a Calvinist who believes they're going to hell.
I don't want reality.
If I try really hard to check my basic human decency at the door, I can see why fascist mythology could be appealing. It lets you off the hook. It justifies the worst cruelties because you are defending what is good and righteous from human animals who want to tear down a beautiful civilization. The problem is, the civilization fascists claim to be defending has never existed. It's a myth. There is no single white race. Just ask the Irish, or the Italians, or the Russians, or the Ukrainians, or the Jews, who have all had their white card revoked or granted at some point. There is no period in American history where everything was great for the white working class. Every worker in this country has always been at the mercy of the elite, but not the elite fascists assume are pulling the strings. It's not a shadowy cabal of woke Jews. It's just the people who own the means of production. They're not shy about it. People like Warren Buffett routinely admit there's a class war being waged, and that the capitalists want to make sure that they win it.
Okay, now there's like, I don't know, 15 plus minutes of that we skipped over. So if that video interested you further than what we've seen, you can always go to Second Thought and check that out. Don't forget truck nuts. Truck nuts are a vital part of the American economy. Okay. Alright, just for fun, and as context to some of the next videos we're going to watch, let's watch this from an hour ago from ABC News Australia. The Met Gala 2024 fashion show. Who had the best Garden of Time outfit? Oh my god, let's find out. So exciting. Power went out? That's terrible. Oh god. Well, thank you for still being here, even though you're in the dark right now, literally. Wow, a human peacock. Okay, great. Great. Let's move on to this from just a few hours before that video came out, where protesters moved from, what was it again? Sorry, I'm just going off of my memory right now. What is that? Protesters departed Hunter College and headed for the Met Gala. Hey, let's not go back. There we go.
Meanwhile, there is a group of demonstrators that are gathering at Hunter College on the Upper East Side right now, and they're planning to march to the Met Gala. Let's get live out to CBS 2's Dave Carlin with the latest on this situation. Dave.
Christine, I think the scene behind me tells you everything you need to know about that demonstration moving away from here, the front doors of Hunter College, out onto Lexington Avenue just minutes ago, and they're off, marching to Met Museum after spending about an hour here. By the time the demonstrators arrived at 4:30 p.m. to this entrance for Hunter College on East 68th Street, many students had already left campus. An email alert earlier in the day informed students and staff of a 3 p.m. deadline. Leaders at Hunter confirmed to us classes at Hunter College's main campus were moved to fully remote starting at 3 p.m. We made this decision out of an abundance of caution.
I didn't even know that the protest was going to be happening today. This is my last class for the day.
I have a class like 6 p.m. and they basically canceled it. And I have like exam next week, so it's preparation for exam. I spend my time, I spend my money to get here, to pay for the tuition and everything, and they just cancel my class for no reason.
So this area went from crowded with...
Okay. Anyways, just wanted to provide some context for that Met Gala. By the way, Jerry Seinfeld was there, who is a ardent supporter of the IDF. And while the super rich are laughing at one another at the Met Gala, people are still homeless. So let's talk about that for a second. This is from King 5 Seattle from 21 minutes ago. Well, like an hour ago now, I guess. Yeah, like an hour ago. Frustration grows in Burien as city and sheriff's office clash over camping ban enforcement.
Arrest somebody because they are living outside. We have to be able to show that there's been a connection to services and a true bona fide offer of housing. So that's what raised the question. That's when I instructed my deputies on March 8th not to enforce that part.
Happening in Burien, tensions between the sheriff's office and city leaders are escalating. That was the King County Sheriff referencing the Ninth Circuit Court case law at a community meeting about public safety tonight. Sheriff Patty Cole Tyndall was joined by the Burien Police Chief as well as other advocates. Notably absent from tonight's meeting, a representative from the city. Thanks for being with us at 7 o'clock. I'm Greg Copeland.
I'm Joyce Taylor. This comes as a letter authorized by some King County Sheriff's deputies is circulating online expressing no confidence in the city manager or the mayor. As King 5's Natalie Swaby reports, City Hall is responding tonight.
A Burien spokesperson says they have not received a copy of the letter, but in a statement, the city says they're very disappointed and concerned based on what they've learned about it. Today, we are hearing from some Burien business owners who say they're already feeling the impact from this issue.
We're caught in the middle. We love our police. We love our city. I love our mayor. You know, we're caught in the middle.
In Burien, locals are learning the latest in a legal fight between the city and King County Sheriff's Office involves a letter posted in an article by B-Town Blog. It says King County Sheriff deputies.
Hold on, I just want to look at this letter.
A letter posted.
We, the officers of Burien Police Department, write to you today to express our extreme disappointment with the recent decision of the city to request the removal of Ted Bowe as the chief of Burien PD. Ted has been our chief for the majority of the last decade, has done nothing but improve this worksite for your city. Now, they're not being very clear about what it is they're complaining about. I feel like, wait, hold on, I can't remember exactly what they did, but I gotta look this up again. Okay, so they've actually filed a lawsuit against the city. And, where is it? They're essentially claiming that the, hold on. The city's decision to replace its prior camping ordinance with the current ordinance is the source of the problem. The current ordinance is almost certainly unconstitutional. The sheriff's office enforced the prior ordinance in partnership with the city's social service contractors, and the newly amended ordinance abandoned this approach, making it unlike any other municipal ordinance in our region. The city of Burien could resolve the situation immediately by readopting the original language and re-engaging with its social service providers. They really don't even make it very clear. It still is not very clear after reading that. What is the ordinance? Oh, okay, I understand it now. So actually, it seems like the mayor has made a new ordinance that's essentially trying to get the police to crack down on the homeless more. Wait, hold on, I don't want to say that for sure. This is not making a ton of sense. The way they've all worded this is so dumb, so unnecessary. Yeah, so yeah, the mayor is complaining. She wants the police to crack down harder on homelessness, and the police chief actually said, nah, fuck that. Which is pretty based, if you ask me.
An article by B-Town Blog. It says King County Sheriff deputies working for Burien under contract are expressing a vote of no confidence in the mayor and city manager. Partly because last month the city manager made a request for the removal of the police chief in Burien amid a disagreement over the city's camping ban. In a statement today, Mayor Kevin Schilling said the city council appreciates the work of deputies, adding, "We understand they're in a difficult position while this political issue plays out."
Look at this fucking chucklehead with his... I genuinely hate it when people wear these like sweater... just like these sweaters underneath their suit jackets. Like it I don't know why, but I really do hate it.
It's an issue that intensified in March when city leaders voted to expand Burien's anti-camping ordinance, saying people are not allowed to sleep within 500 feet of places like schools and libraries. The sheriff's office responded by saying they would not enforce it until a judge decides if it's constitutional. That led to the sheriff's office and city filing lawsuits.
We all need to get along. We all need to learn how to work together, and the sooner we can do that, the better.
Deborah George is the executive director of Discovery.
Okay. Moving along. No, he's wearing like a weird three-piece suit. Instead of a vest, he's wearing a sweater. And I hate it. But it's like a zip-up sweater, which makes it just so much worse. He looks like a professor that teaches at Hunger Games University or something. Okay, now let's look at this, because I just found this fascinating, because we keep hearing so much about this constantly from mostly just the right wing and or corporations, people like that complaining about this. But this is from 9 minutes before I started streaming. Number of homeless tents in San Francisco hits a 5-year low, according to Mayor. Weird, I thought it was overrun. I thought San Francisco was just overrun by tents.
San Francisco officials say that for the third time in a row, their quarterly count of tents and structures on city streets has actually dropped. As our ground floor's Dan Kerman reports tonight, though pleased, they know there's still a lot more work to be done.
San Francisco's Tenderloin is far from tent-free, but a drive through the area suggests there are fewer tents and encampments than before, and now city data backs that up.
Ever since that Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decisions, once we started to go into action, we've seen a decline of encampments by over 40%. So we're really excited about what this means.
City stats show the number of tents and...
Now, I'm not stoked about what they've been doing, okay, to make this happen, but I just want to point it out to the right-wingers who are always saying that San Francisco is just this lawless place with, you know, and it's clearly made drastic changes. Whether or not I agree with them, I'm just sick of hearing them say these sorts of unfactual things. So I figured afactual sort of thing. I don't think unfactual is a word. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. Do I think they should be cracking down on homeless people? Fuck no. Fuck no. But just to push back on the rhetoric from the right, it just felt necessary. Okay, before we move on, though, let's look at this. This is just disturbing. Dead rodent and droppings found at McDonald's.
Now on Crawford News at 6.
No. Absolutely not, Chris. No. Are less deaths a good thing if homelessness is increasing? Fuck no, it's not. And that's not at all the argument I'm trying to make. I'm just trying to literally just push back on the rhetoric about San Francisco and that it's just just full of homeless people and that it's just getting worse and worse by the day because of all the liberal policies in San Francisco. But instead it's not, and it's not a bunch of liberal policies, and they're actually cracking down on homeless people like a bunch of assholes. And do you get what I'm saying? Because no, obviously that just means that there's more homeless people who I don't even know what they're doing to keep themselves moderately protected while sleeping. It's problematic. Very, very problematic. So no, do not, please nobody take that from what I was just trying to do there. Okay, let's look at this.
More about the major health code violations that forced Alameda County officials to shut down an Oakland McDonald's.
This evening, we're getting our very first look at that report.
I hope nobody was hungry or eating right now. I'm very sorry.
County's Health Department. Good evening, everybody. I'm Vicki Leviakis.
I'm Ken Wayne. Cron 4's Leslie Gooden has been following this story since it broke Friday afternoon. She joins us here in the studio with the latest developments. Leslie.
Yep, that's right. That McDonald's on Jackson Street failed a surprise inspection on Friday. And today I was able to take a look at the full health report done by the Alameda County Health Department. Now, according to this report, they found indications of rat activity. And
that is fucking disgusting. I am just absolutely appalled by this.
On Friday, the Alameda County Health Department shut down this McDonald's at 1330
Okay, we're not going to watch that whole thing. But yeah, I would avoid fast food if I were you people. Me personally, I tend to think that places like that are at least clean-ish. Seeing that really... I genuinely do not eat fast food, but that really kind of closes it up for me. Jesus Christ. It's just so gross. Oh, God. Fair point. They do not pay their workers very much, so you can't expect those places to be super clean. And yet the actual corporation which runs these places is raking in billions of dollars a year, meanwhile, while they subject us to that. So thank you for that, McDonald's. Big Mac and a rat, please? Yes. Coming right up. Would you like fries with that? Okay. Now let's look at some space-related news. Before we move along to ecological and environmental news, yeah, we actually have a couple of videos on space-related stuff here. First, let's look at this from 6 hours ago from CBS News, where Boeing's crewed Starliner was set to launch.
After several years of delays, Boeing has the green light to finally launch its Starliner tonight at just after 10:30 p.m. Eastern. The spacecraft is scheduled to blast off from Florida on a trip to the International Space Station, carrying humans for the first time. We spoke last week to two veteran NASA astronauts who will be aboard this historic flight.
There's no better view of our beautiful planet than from space. I wish everybody had the opportunity to take a lap. I think we'd all be a lot nicer to each other if we did that. It's just incredible and, changes your perspective about really what's important.
Everyone could have a great view from space if they just followed and subscribed at the Galactic News Network. Then they could have as many views from space as they like. Just gonna throw that out there.
CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman is at the Kennedy Space Center. Mark, this is a very exciting time for everyone, especially for those astronauts who get to go on this flight. It's finally happening, though it's happening after a series of difficulties. What are the issues related to that delay of 7 years?
Hey, Lily, yeah, exciting for the astronauts, exciting for Boeing, exciting for NASA. But let's face it, it's taken a long time and a long and winding road to get to this point, to this big moment. They were just an almost seemingly endless series of setbacks. They had severe software issues. They had parachute issues. They had jammed valves. They had nearly a month.
Who would have expected that with a Boeing spacecraft? Shocking.
I don't want reality. Of tape that snaked inside the capsule that they suddenly worried was potentially flammable. All of that became one delay after another, and in all, nearly 7 years of delays, cost overruns of more than $1 billion. So if tonight...
$1 billion in costs from delays? That is fucking insane.
Well, a lot of hard-working folks have really earned that moment, but it's been very frustrating at the same time for everybody involved.
It's impossible to talk about Boeing, think about Boeing, and ignore all of the issues that have arisen from their airplanes, not spacecraft. So how confident is NASA about this flight? Does it believe that Boeing now has all of those issues under control? And, I mean, is this part of the conversation?
It's definitely part of the conversation. I mean, I've talked to the astronauts on this flight. They're confident. I've talked to Boeing. Boeing says it's confident, and NASA is clearly in an oversight role here, but at the same time, they're taking their cues from Boeing and from all the engineers involved with this project, essentially saying, we really think we're ready now. And so...
Okay. That seems like the best place I could find to pause it there. Let's move on to this. This just ended 35 minutes before the stream started, where we can watch Boeing cancel its first Starliner astronaut launch.
Rocket. If you
hold on, I gotta rewind this from where. Okay, let's see.
A recommendation. Roger, please, community anomaly team, provide a recommendation. I'd estimate at this time it'd be about 30 minutes. We'll be ready to start detanking. Sounds good.
So as you can see here, they got this.
Absolutely, everything is rehearsed from what we call.
They got this freaking parade leaving the Boeing spacecraft. According to this little infographic they got here, NASA's Boeing crew flight test, launch scrub, update, crew returning to crew quarters.
Terminal operations where everything goes perfectly smooth, to little issues, so that everybody's aware how to troubleshoot those and what their roles and responsibilities are.
I would point out, this is like 3 hours into the stream already. There was like this really long video of them all getting ready, putting all their goddamn like space suits on and everything else. Literally took hours and hours for them to like being ready for this launch after supposedly $1 billion worth of delays. And then that. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, so quick final. And if you're just joining us, welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where at about 8:34 this evening, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt of NASA's Boeing crew flight tests. That was after the ULA team decided to reevaluate an oxygen relief valve that's on the Centaur upper stage. So that's the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket.
So it was an oxygen release valve that there was apparently enough concern about for them to completely scrap the mission. It's insane. I don't know why we had Boeing do this one, but it is not going well. I don't know what it proves, but it just proves that Boeing sucks at everything now. That's what you get from, whatever, $100 billion in stock buybacks over 20 years. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like Boeing's going to be our solution to space travel. Certainly not anytime soon. Let's look at this next. From PBS Terra. Just to kind of get us moving from one speed to the next. What an Antarctic disaster can teach us about getting to Mars.
Men wanted for hazardous journey. Safe return, doubtful. Honor and recognition in case of success.
Legend has it that Sir Ernest Shackleton placed this ad in the London Times in December of 1913 to recruit for his Antarctic expedition. While the text of the ad most likely never actually appeared in the newspaper, these words paint a true picture of what this expedition would entail. They never reached Antarctica. Their ship became perilously stuck in ice at the end of the world, slowly being crushed in the darkness. Stranded and completely isolated from the rest of humanity in the harshest conditions on the planet, what kept the crew from succumbing to madness?
That's actually a great point. That's a great point. If you put the corporate board in the space shuttle, it'll probably work. Or at least, maybe they'll get more serious about the engineering.
Now, is this a fascinating historical mystery? Sure. But more than a century later, historians, scientists, and a new era of explorers are realizing this failed expedition also holds key lessons for our future. How astronauts might survive on a journey to Mars. Shackleton and his 27-man crew set sail aboard the Endurance in 1914, with the goal of becoming the first expedition to cross Antarctica on foot. But after departing from a whaling station in South Georgia in December, the crew would end up having no contact with the outside world for nearly 500 days. Less than a month later, with Antarctica visible on the horizon, the Endurance became trapped in sea ice. It didn't take long for Shackleton to realize that hope for escape wouldn't come for months. They had no way of communicating with anyone beyond the ship for help, but Shackleton knew that if they were to have any hope of survival, he had to convince his crew that rescue was possible. From the start, Shackleton made sure.
Okay, hold on.
And a banjo. Shackleton knew if there was any hope to keep his crew alive and sane while isolated from the world, he needed to keep them focused on the ultimate goal of getting home. Psychological effects had been documented by previous polar explorers, like hallucinogenic fugue states and a nervous irritability dubbed expedition madness. Shackleton kept a careful eye on the morale of his crew. To keep their spirits up, they celebrated holidays, put on plays, sang and wrote songs, journaled, read a lot of books, and exercised frequently. If the conditions of the day were particularly depressing, he'd tell the expedition cook to make an extravagant meal. Well, as extravagant as you could get when your diet is seal, penguin, and dwindling rations from the ship like tin fish paste.
Yeah, not the best start on an extravagant meal, if you ask me. Now, they, in this documentary, they wind up going on and comparing this experience to being in a spaceship for years and years, because it would take a great amount of time to go to Mars and to come back. And there's a lot of stresses that are involved in that are similar psychologically to what's going on with people back in whatever that was, like the 1700s, 1800s, something like that. When was Shackleton? God damn it. I think it was 1800s, right? God damn, what was that? Oh no. Well, yeah, maybe it was the 1800s. What did he? Early 1900s, I guess. But yeah, in terms of, you know, the sort of things that might be going through your head when you're trapped in the ice without any communication, well, they might be somewhat similar to going to Mars. Now, just for a little fun, I mean, and for a very serious look into this, we have a documentary here to look at about the difficulties of trekking through the ice.
Where is he?
He said he would be some time, sir.
That was yesterday. No man could survive more than a few hours in this blizzard. Oh, damn it all. 3 of us left. Only 3 of us. What provisions have we?
1 last strand of pemmican, sir.
Damn it all to hell. I refuse to eat this confounded muck.
Then we have but 1 remaining option, sir.
No, it's unthinkable.
No, not Wilson. This!
What? No, that's even worse.
Sir, we will surely perish if we do not eat.
That, sir, is a Christmas pudding. And today is barely halfway through August. What are you proposing?
We could say we lost track of time.
Lieutenant, there are some things that a true Englishman will never countenance. That is a Christmas pudding, and we are saving it for Christmas. Is that understood?
Well then, what about the Harvest Festival hamper? That's only a few weeks away.
Show yourself, man.
Look at this prize marrow, sir. Imagine the sweet taste of its flesh once cooked. Perhaps with these butter beans, we could rustle up a hearty stew.
We are Englishmen, not animals.
How about the corned beef? Or the cling peaches in syrup?
If we treat these hampers with contempt, then we are no better than Norwegians.
Sir, we are starving to death.
We are doing so with due deference to the English celebration of calendar.
Shackleton let his men eat all the pancake batter weeks before Shrove Tuesday.
I don't intend to brook any jealous intervention from you, Wilson. Wilson? Is that foil in your beard?
No, it's snow.
And there's chocolate on your glove. You finished the entire Advent calendar.
My God.
Good Lord. It wasn't my idea. Oates gave me a little chocolate Father Christmas, and then we rather got carried away with the spirit of the thing.
How dare you!
Bowers had some too. And some of the brandy butter.
Is this true, Bowers? Let's see. Well, is there anything either of you would care to add to your confessions?
Well, you tell him.
No, you tell him. It was your idea.
What is it? Tell me this instant. Speak up, man.
I said we ate the carrot.
What? Carrot? No! 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 But that was to be the nose for my snowman.
Okay. That's enough. I'm sorry.
Outside of Toronto in
I know that wasn't very serious. But sometimes we just need to have a little bit of fun. It was contextual with what we were already doing, so, you know, just felt right. Okay,
let's get started here. How far are we, by the way? What time is it? Okay, we're like a minute. Like 8:18. Okay, cool. I'm gonna skip this one. Let's go to this next one. Okay, this is from the AP from 13 hours ago, where increasing spring rain is adding to farmers' anxiety.
This year, with the way the weather's been, it's slowed progress, obviously. I wouldn't say we're behind, but a few more rains than we're going to be. We average close to 42 inches of rain yearly, and sometimes you get it all over.
Correction. This is a Moonday, not a Monday. I don't know what a Mondays no longer exist, according to Galactic proclamation.
You'd like to see it spread out more evenly, especially in June, July, August, but you get a bunch of rain up front, that delays planting, which that leads to, can lead to possibility of yield loss because you're just lacking sunlight, you're just lacking growing days. You don't get like 5-6 days of work in a row. You're only getting 2 to 3 at a time instead of, you know, the weeks that we used to get. Usually it's long hours in those 2 or 3 days to push as hard as you can to try and get the crop in. If we're getting late and we've only got a few days to plant at a time, you know, we'll try to keep stuff going around the clock if we can. If we got
I think
enough
those are
manpower.
peas. But yeah, too much. We talk about this all the time, but climate change is, you know, it's one of these things where you might not expect a certain amount of rain in a certain amount of time, and all these human systems are based upon our expectations of weather. Like for instance, like the Farmer's Almanac, right, has been around for I think like 200 years or something like that, and it was always used by farmers to predict how to plant their crops, when to plant their crops. But as these things become more and more unpredictable, people in general are left in complicated situations, such as with these farmers, where they have water they don't want, which is an annoying and ironic sort of problem in this world, because there's plenty of places where there's not enough water. I know I've said it like 10 times before, but if we could just figure out a way to get the water from the places we don't want it to the places that we do, we would have a lot less issues with this. I just don't have any real concrete solutions on that. Alright, now I'm looking to ecological weather stuff here happening in the United States recently. Let's start off with this, which I missed, and this footage is pretty freaking nuts.
Phrasing.
And yeah, let's just check this out. This is footage taken from a train of a tornado striking in Nebraska from 8 days ago.
That just took that building out.
Yeah, it did.
Should we get away from the windows?
No kidding.
Right over us. Yeah. Hold on.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, it's a double plane window. We're in emergency. Yeah, I'm sure it knocked the car over. Let me see. Yeah, we got trees and everything else behind us. Yeah. Yeah, it knocked the car over.
Now, he's saying it knocked a car over. He's talking about a car on the train behind them. There's no footage of it, but that's what I assume he's talking about. Which, you know, the amount of force to knock over a train car is quite high. I would point that out. perhaps in vain. But yeah, that shit is fucked. Alright, let's move on to the current stuff that's happening in that area or nearby. This is from 13 hours ago, where more than 20 million people are now recovering after a deadly flooding in the south.
With deadly flooding, southeast Texas is bracing for more downpours after getting 2 feet of rain last week. Now a new storm system is moving into the plains with severe weather expected from South Dakota to central Texas. ABC News' Mola Lengi's in Conroe, Texas with the latest.
More than 20 million people recovering after relentless flooding submerged the South.
It puts the fear of God in you.
The flooding conditions in Texas turning deadly. Police in Johnson County near Fort Worth saying 2 adults and a 4-year-old boy swept away when they tried to get out of their vehicle, which was stuck in raging waters. The man and woman survived, but rescuers located the boy's body hours later. He was reportedly just weeks away from his 5th birthday.
It's a terrible, demoralizing
That is so
feeling.
sad.
I mean, it ain't a fire, but it's a close second.
The Houston area inundated, 2 feet of rain falling in a matter of days. The ground so saturated, this tree toppled in this
2 fucking feet of rain. That is like, that's like taller than toddlers' heads. This shit is fucking crazy.
Neighborhood after storms hit the area, and the San Jacinto River swelling to nearly 78 feet above sea level, some 30 feet higher than normal.
I lost everything. Everything's flooded. Everything's all my things. I got my dogs though, and I'm gonna relocate for sure.
What do you do next?
And start over.
And Mola Lengi joins me now from Conroe, Texas for more. Mola, what are conditions like there right now?
Rain is not fire. Very true. But they're both very destructive. In different ways.
Well, Diane, the rain has started to ease, so a little bit of a relief here.
Although it does seem like fire is more, what's the word? Total in the destruction that it causes.
Next few hours and few days, really. Water's starting to recede, but as you can see, some spots still completely submerged, completely underwater. This is a park in a low-lying area. We have the San Jacinto River nearby, so not a surprise that this is a place that would get submerged by water. And this is certainly one of the more extreme examples of conditions out here. A lot of the area not underwater, but there are still spots. There are still neighborhoods that are completely submerged. There are homes that are still underwater. As you can see, this park completely underwater, and roads that are still impassable around here.
Okay, cool. Well, not cool, but that's all we got for that one. But yeah, this storm has turned deadly. At least one child has now died because of it. And millions of people have had this impact them. I believe over 100,000 people have now been displaced from this flooding. Let's just quickly look at this from 5 hours ago before we move on to more of this. This is someone outside of Houston here. Fast rise of floodwaters stuns Kingwood neighbors.
And more unwelcome news for parts of waterlogged Kingwood today. More water. This is a live look at the area right now from Skydrone 13. The water came up pretty quickly in some spots. Needless to say, new roads plunged underwater. Several homes are now unreachable.
ABC 13's Luke Jones is live at a shopping plaza in Hamblin at Forest Cove, and he's been watching that area.
Yeah, what we're seeing out here, truly incredible, because there was a time this morning when this entire parking lot was bone dry, and now look, all of it covered in at least 6 inches of water. Let's go ahead and show you some video from above, but also I want to show you kind of the progress the water is making today.
Bangladesh, Texas. Wow. It does kind of look like that.
So around 11:30, just a few of these parking spots up here, the water had reached them. Most of them, though, they were good. And this gas pump it was definitely on the higher ground, but around 3:30, 4 o'clock, that's when the first water reached the gas pumps. We were talking maybe 1 inch, and now at 6 o'clock, 6:30, several inches here, and the rest of this shopping plaza, as I mentioned, inundated with water, and that's why all of these business owners think it's just a matter of time before the water gets inside.
Yeah, and it's only bad news for this area right now in terms of all of this. We're going to move on to this from an hour ago. This is from ABC. Hundreds have been rescued from flooding as waters continue rising in Houston.
The flooding emergency playing out, and it's turned deadly now. Houston with 2 feet of rain in just a matter of days. Thousands forced to evacuate. Homes and neighborhoods tonight underwater. First responders making hundreds of high water rescues. A Houston police officer on a jet ski rescuing a man and his 2 dogs who were treading water outside their flooded home. And tonight, Texas now reporting the storms have taken 3 lives, including a 4-year-old boy, when the family car was swept away. ABC's Mola Lengi in Texas tonight.
Tonight, the National Weather Service issuing their highest warning, a particularly dangerous situation for large, long-track tornadoes for parts of Texas, Kansas, and most of Oklahoma. Our Oklahoma City affiliate, KOCO, tracking supercells.
Pay close attention to this storm. Listen to our language very closely, listen to our tone, and be ready to seek shelter if a tornado warning does come out on this.
It's the 4th tornado outbreak in 4 weeks, with many of the same areas under threat. While millions in the heartland brace for tornadoes, neighborhoods north of Houston still flooded after days of rain.
Can you imagine coming out to get your mail and having to walk through what is that, like 2 feet of water to get your your electric bill or whatever? Jesus Christ.
Hood is almost completely underwater. Best case scenario, you've got a house on stilts that's undamaged, but even then, the ground floor property, cars are flooded out. But worst case scenario, you've got homes not on stilts, totally flooded out. Timothy Boudreau and his wife using a jet ski and a tin boat to deliver essentials to stranded families in Riverside, Texas.
Well, I was actually the UPS guy here for 15 years.
Now you're making different kind of deliveries.
Yeah.
You thought Texas sucked before? Well, introducing floods and tornadoes. Okay, let's look at this. I think this is still live. It might not be. But this is Ryan Hall, y'all, with a live tornado outbreak coverage with storm chasers on the ground. Let's see what he's got to tell us about this situation. Still live?
But of course it's May, so it'll come back.
Still live. It's weird. God damn. Is that how much money he's raised over the weekend? What? Good God. Wait, it's Monday. Why does he still have that up? Holy fuck. This is intense.
Let me show you the simulated radar. Illinois, it looks like there's going to be some storms as early as 7 a.m. tomorrow. Anything severe, though, would pop up on the eastern side of the state closer to 3 or 4 p.m. This is definitely mostly in Indiana and Ohio. If you look past the damage, all
right, we're just going backwards to look at some of the stuff he's done here today. It appears it's still raining in Texas right now.
Could.
Well, that's Oklahoma.
It's not going to be very visible. It's very much rain wrapped. Yeah, you're not going to see anything in that mess. Yeah, so Hunter's location here, and hopefully we can get Hunter in one of the top 3 spots. I know it's spotty, but we've got to get like a I'm sorry, what am I saying? We've got to get a view of that. Hunter's somewhere up in here. Tornado is going to be somewhere right in here. There's currently a confirmed tornado located near Covington.
Okay, yeah. So it seems like there's definitely tornadoes that are touching down in Oklahoma and Texas. And it's still seemingly raining there, which is going to be adding to that flooding that's going on, which is just adding insult to injury in this situation, I feel like. Texans are already underwater. Now they're just going to be underwater even more. And maybe getting blown around at very high speeds, which would be shitty. Just trying to even imagine what it would be like to be stuck in your house, which is surrounded by water, and then getting hit by a tornado. Can't be fun. Can't possibly be fun at all. Do hope those people wind up being okay. Alright. Moving on from the storms in the south. Let's look at this. This is from NBC LA from 12 hours ago, where a brush fire started burning in Sepulveda Basin. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Go, web, go. What is going on? There we go. Whoa, why is this muted? What is happening? Hold on. The fuck?
Firefighters moved in quickly this morning to knock down a brush fire. It happened in Van Nuys. Now, it burned in the Sepulveda Basin near the 405 and the 101 freeways. NBC4's Michelle Valles is there live with the response it took to stop this fire from spreading. Michelle, good morning.
And what we have here is a situation. This could have been out of control here. This was a fire overnight near the 101 and the 405. It was retained to about 2 acres here, but they really had to get into this wilderness basin and make those fire drops here. Take a look at what happened overnight. The brush fire on the 15,700 West Burbank block happened just before midnight. The fire was really hard for crews to access from the ground. So this is why it was so crucial for those LAFD fire ops teams to attack it from above to keep the flames from spreading. And coincidentally, that brush fire in the basin comes at a time when Governor Gavin Newsom has declared this Wildfire Preparedness Week. According to the governor, the state is on the front lines of this growing threat and says the administration is taking unprecedented action to make our communities more resilient to wildfires.
Unprecedented action? I'm not sure what that means.
And improving the forest health. Now, like we're seeing here, they really have put in a lot of money with these emergency response efforts and purchasing state-of-the-art firefighting equipment and technology, and that's really what put the...
Now, it does sound like they've managed to get this fire under control. I'm not sure it's 100% under control, but I think it's... I believe they believe that it's going to burn out, and hopefully that is the case. But it is the beginning of fire season. We've already seen a bunch of them, mostly in the south, but the rest of the continent's going to be under threat from fires very soon. Very, very soon as things start getting drier. But let's talk about a place that's not nearly dry enough. This is from France 24 English from 11 hours ago. Death toll from southern Brazil. Rainfall keeps climbing. Many still missing.
Entire towns are submerged, roads are washed out, and a statewide operation is underway in Rio Grande do Sul, roughly a week after the deluge began in southern Brazil. In the streets of Canoas, boats scour buildings and rooftops, and local residents in waist-high muddy waters make a human chain to pull the boats and ferry people to safety. Elsewhere, others are airlifted with their children in their arms.
We have removed all the people who were on their roofs. Now we are removing people stuck in the second and third floors of their houses.
The death toll is climbing. More than 100 people are missing, and the storms have impacted nearly 2/3 of the state's 497 cities, including in the capital, Porto Alegre, a city of nearly 1.4 million people, where the
497 cities in Brazil are underwater. You might as well just say all of Brazil is underwater at that point. And look at this footage right here, by the way, because this is what really made me want to watch this video today, because we've looked at a bunch of this footage over the last week as this has been going on, but this shit is fucking insane. Look at this. I don't know, Porto Alegre. So yeah, this is a massive city, and it looks like the fucking apocalypse. The whole place is underwater. Look, it's insane.
Paraíba River burst its banks on Sunday and recorded its highest ever water levels. From above, President Lula da Silva and a team of ministers and Congress surveyed the damage.
I put them all in the helicopter and came here so that we could see what the floods mean, together with the governor. So they saw the damage the rain is causing, because it's still happening in the city of Porto Alegre and the state of Rio Grande do Sul.
This is the fourth such environmental disaster in the state in a year, following floods in July, September and November. While South America is periodically affected by the El Niño phenomenon, the impacts are growing increasingly dramatic, and extreme weather events are expected to be more frequent due to...
Okay. So yeah, things are not improving in Brazil at all right now. People are in serious straits. I'm just gonna look at one more video about this.
Catastrophic flooding in Brazil has claimed the lives of at least 78 people. More than 115,000 people have been stranded without food or water amid flooding from storms over the past few days. Now, the downpours affecting more than 2/3 of the nearly 500 cities in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, which borders Uruguay and Argentina. The rain has also triggered landslides and the partial collapse of a dam at a small hydroelectric plant.
I know that we have many state roads that are in need of repair. I want to tell you that I'm not worried because the federal government, through the Ministry of Transportation, will help you recover the state roads. We have a lot to rebuild. A lot of houses, and the recovery of the houses should take into account with the mayors that we can't allow people to rebuild houses in the same places where they fell down. Town Hall, the state, and the federal government need to locate safe land so that people can rebuild their houses. Yeah, Lula's on point with this one. You gotta start thinking about the fact that some houses may very well need to move. Some people may need to get, and the government needs to be there to help them, and that's exactly right, because we can't be rebuilding things time and time again to have them taken out by floods. That said, what do you do with this whole city? Is this going to keep happening? Because this shit is fucking nuts. Just looking at this picture right here. This is crazy. Is it just me, or does that look like some weird mix between like The Walking Dead and Waterworld? This is the first time I see this. I've seen other floods, but nothing like this. This is the first time. My father-in-law is still missing, and there are other people we know who have not yet been rescued. We need some resources, such as the cards that the city hall is releasing to get water, or hygiene kits, or cleaning kits, and mattresses, so people will need to return home right away. Oh boy, yeah. People need a lot of help in Brazil right now. This historic flooding there is really causing a lot of chaos. Ben Shapiro says, sell your house and move. Yeah. It's very, very thoughtful of him. And I'm sure he doesn't want the government to help at all with that process.
Climate and everything are the same word.
Okay. Quickly, we're going to look at this. Things have genuinely gotten worse since this happened, but I just wanted to remind anybody who hasn't seen this yet of what's happening in East Africa, where dozens, at least at the time of this video from 9 days ago, had been killed.
To East Africa now, where weeks of monsoon rains have been wreaking havoc across much of the region. Tanzania is reporting at least 150.
Now, the monsoon, if I'm not mistaken, in East Africa usually starts in like late May or early June. So it started early this year, from my understanding of the situation.
Dead from floods and landslides. The government in Kenya says the extreme weather there has now killed at least 70 people since March. Severe flooding has forced thousands from their homes as well. DW correspondent Felix Moringa reports now from Nairobi.
This is the aftermath of heavy rains that have continued to pound Nairobi the past few days. Josephine Ayako tries to save what is left after the devastating floods that hit this area. She lost all her belongings. The river nearby broke its banks, leaving everyone to rush for safety.
I saw death with my own eyes. A neighbor of mine was saved and rushed to the hospital. I don't even want to see the rain, because when my son sees the rain, he keeps telling me we need to flee and go to the countryside, because we almost died yesterday.
The floods have left residents vulnerable. The government has asked people to move to higher ground to avoid a repeat of what has taken place, but many like Josephine are short of options.
I don't have any place to go here in Nairobi.
Okay. But the situation is not just in Kenya. It's in Kenya, it's in Mozambique, oh shit, what's the other ones? I think it hit Madagascar, as well as, I can't think of the fourth, but like, basically, most of the east coast of Africa has been hit by tremendous rain and flooding as a result, and people are suffering. And that shit was from 9 days ago. It's only gotten worse. It got hit by another cyclone, I think 4 days ago, and that just completely flipped the whole, well, not the whole coast, but like a huge portion of it upside down. Okay. Oh, alright. I guess it's that time. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button and do consider subscribing. It genuinely helps me out here at the Galactic News Network. Now, if you'd like to help out even more, well, you got one good option. Go and become a Galactic producer by clicking this link in chat. That's right, if you go and spend $3 a month on Patreon, you will get access to a whole bunch of space benefits, including bragging rights as being one of the elite few who help get this shit done around here. Anyways, enjoy this intermission. Grab a drink, grab a snack, take a dip in the space pool, and yeah, I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. I hope you individuals all got your intermission on just now in whatever way you felt necessary. Now we are going to get right back to it. Global news time. You know, I need to make like a video cut sequence for this. Switch us between things. Should write that down so I don't forget. Hold on. Thank you, Mo. Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm glad to be back. Okay, where are we starting today? Well, looks like we're gonna skip over most of Europe, because there's a lot to talk about today regarding the Middle East situation, more specifically the Israeli assault on Gaza and its citizens. So, let's just take a quick trip to Russia and talk about a few things regarding that. Oh, wait a second. We should have gone to this one first. Whatever. We'll do it in this order. I don't care. Do the global news dance? Yes, do that dance. Okay. So the two videos we're going to be watching here regarding Russia have to do with the fact that amidst a Russian advance in Ukraine's east, they have just announced nuclear weapons drills. This is from France 24 from 10 hours ago.
The front line is inching closer, and villages nearby are trapped in a deluge of Russian fire. This Ukrainian police unit is in charge of evacuating residents in the east of the country. They're forced to flee at a moment's notice with minimal belongings, with often the injured to carry.
The car is outside. We need to hurry, but stay calm.
Just 5 kilometers.
Does Global News also stream in the States? I mean, it's on YouTube. I don't think they have an actual American Global News. It's just the normal Canadian Global News that we watch around here. Like, you know, I have so many subscriptions to all the major and even medium-sized news outlets, not just in the country, but literally seemingly all over the world to some degree. I mean, there's places that I clearly miss, but it's mostly due to the fact they can only handle so much.
Just from the front line, the sound of fighting is incessant. Little remains of this village where many houses have been bombarded and abandoned.
Since the 1st of May, it's worse than hell. It just doesn't stop.
This Ukrainian woman is awaiting instructions from her daughter, who's trying to organize her evacuation.
I can't talk to her. There's no network with all that bombing.
Moscow says it's captured more frontline villages in Kharkiv in the northeast, as well as several villages in Avdiivka in the Donetsk region, modest but steady advances. Russia has made a string of gains in recent months, as Ukraine deals with severe weapons and ammunition shortages, with a prolonged holdup in Washington leaving them struggle to hold the front line. For Kyiv, the $61 billion aid from the US couldn't arrive on the battlefield soon enough.
No borders under space communism. Bad Lefty gets it. Okay. Send MTG to the front line. Yeah. Wonder how that would go. Just be out there doing some of the worst CrossFit exercises that's known to man. And bothering people about space lasers. Okay, now let's look a little bit more at this nuclear weapons drill announcement from Russia. This is Al Jazeera from 9 hours ago.
Russia says it's preparing for military exercises involving its battlefield nuclear weapons because of what it calls Western provocations and threats. The Russian Defense Ministry says the exercises will be used to increase the readiness of non-strategic nuclear forces to carry out combat missions. For more on this, let's speak to Dorsa Jabari. She joins us now from Moscow. Tell us more about this nuclear drill, Dorsa, and what it's going to involve.
Well, the comments were made following a statement by the Defense Ministry on Monday morning. The details have not been released as to exactly where these drills will be taking place. What we do know is that the Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered the country's military to carry out these nuclear drills just to prepare the country's military for what could come. Now, we've heard from the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, during his daily briefing on Monday. He said that this is an unprecedented level of escalation between Western powers and Russia. Peskov said that because of the comments that have been made by Western leaders, specifically by French President Emmanuel Macron on May 2nd, who, during an interview that he gave, he said that he has one objective, and that is to make sure Russia does not win the war in Ukraine. Emmanuel Macron's comment have now prompted the leadership here to take what they call unprecedented.
Him and BB should go for a trip in a Boeing 737 Air Max. Yeah, 100%.
Extraordinary measures in the terms of carrying out these military drills with their nuclear tactical weapons. This is the first time Russia is going to be doing this. And according to the Kremlin spokesperson Peskov, he said that it's obvious that they're talking about the statements that have been coming from Western leaders, and that is in direct response to what they've said, that Russian military forces will be taking this measure. We also have been hearing from the deputy chairman of the State Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, who said that.
Okay. Actually, maybe we should listen to that. Hold on.
This is something that is going to be a global catastrophe if there are troops sent by Western powers into Ukraine. Certainly, this nuclear saber rattling continues. But what is clear is that.
Okay, yeah. So, what the Russian Defense Ministry, or whatever it's called, is essentially saying that if Western powers were to provide troops in any way to Ukraine, that they are not afraid to use nuclear weapons for whatever psychotic reason that they have told themselves. And it's really getting out of hand over there. Too many fucking psychos out there with weapons. Okay, now going back, I don't know why I put these in this order. I think it's partly because it involves China. And in my head, it was Asian news, but really this is more world and Eurocentric news to some degree. But while at a meeting with Emmanuel Macron, Xi Jinping called for a global truce, quote unquote, during the Paris Olympic Games. If we could have a global truce during the Paris Olympic Games, even with all my objections to them, I would say we just continue them indefinitely. Just forever. If we can if that's all we needed to keep the peace, then I'm all for it, honestly. And I've had my criticisms, but whatever. Let's just watch this.
French President Emmanuel Macron has welcomed China's Xi Jinping for a two-day state visit to France. The leaders first discussing trade issues in a meeting with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. President Macron claims neither the U.S. nor China are following rules of international trade, saying the EU's model can't compete and is overregulated. Macron.
It's funny. During another video yesterday talking about the subject, I said exactly that. But I think it was a French 24 video.
Is also planning to press Xi to use his influence on Moscow towards ending the war in Ukraine. The president of China's state visit marks the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the countries. He will next head to Serbia and Hungary.
Posturing? Oh, in relation to the nuclear threats? Let's fucking hope so. Yes, what bad lefties. Yeah. 100%. Let's genuinely, fingers crossed here, just knock on wood and hope to whatever power you'd like to hope to. As a permanent member of the Security Council and as a responsible country, China is ready to work with France to take the Paris Olympics as an opportunity to call for a global truce during the Paris Olympic Games. During Xi's visit, people displayed a Free Tibet banner over the Chinese president's motorcade from a bridge in Paris. Meanwhile, Reporters Without Borders activists protested at the Arc de Triomphe, criticizing his visit. President Xi's state visit to France is a big deal, but we're not sure that the issue of press freedom and the independence of journalists will be raised during the meeting between President Emmanuel Macron and the President of China. However, it must be recognized that the Chinese president is not like any other president. He is a press freedom predator. 119 journalists are detained. Well, I mean, how many... I don't want to split hairs here, but there's some other people that have been doing stuff like that to journalists as well. Russia, for instance. Israel. A great digital firewall prevents access to free information, and even worse, China continues to export its propaganda, hiding behind the appearance of goodwill. Okay. And a lot of what he's saying is genuinely true, and, should raise some alarms for people. But, once again, there are some, Western hypocrisies that sort of pervade all of this, which makes it a little bit more muddy. Okay, that is it on strictly global news. Now on to what is a lot. We have a lot to look at now regarding Gaza and what is happening there. I've got, Jesus Christ. Wow, we have a lot to look at. Okay. First, let's just start by looking just very quickly at one video regarding the protests that are still happening at college campuses, even though they have received a slightly less media coverage recently. I just want to make sure that we keep them in our mind. Here's NBCLA from 8 hours ago. Demonstrations disrupted classes at UCLA.
Now, protesters gathering on the UCLA campus just days after police broke up that pro-Palestinian encampment. We have live team coverage in place. NBC4's John Kedis-Klimek is live with those new protests, while Michelle Vyas catches up with students who are returning to campus. And we start with John. So, John, what are campus officials, or how are campus officials responding?
Now, before I even go further on, I would like to point out that the way that they're framing it from the very beginning, just like straight up from the title of this video, right, is essentially trying to demonize the protesters in whatever way that they can find and think of, right? Oh, they're disrupting classes, right? Like, why not focus on the reason for the protest or something? They don't even mention that it's a pro-Palestine protest.
Hey, Michael, so this was supposed to be a day of normalcy for students to come back to school. It has not been a day like that so far. We've seen a number of different protests pop up, including sit-ins in different and random buildings on campus. The latest we wanted to share with you happening at Dodd Hall.
I don't know, that door looks open. It looks like you could go into class. I'm not seeing anybody actually blocking the door.
We saw and heard students chanting, banging drums, calling for UCLA to divest in any connection to Israel. A similar scene at Moore Hall this morning across campus, handled much differently.
Israel straight up made Al Jazeera illegal. Yes, they did. And we did talk about it yesterday, and we are going to talk about it a little bit more today.
By campus police. This morning we saw officers in tactical gear rushing to get to that building and then setting up barricades. Social media posts saying that students and faculty were supposed to meet there for a sit-in this morning, but within an hour it appeared to be dissolved. The campus sending out an alert, the building itself more.
So as you can see, people are still trying to protest, but also you can see that police are attempting to and by the way, just look at this picture, because this one I really found to be fascinating. Because the way that this piece is framed is that the demonstrations are disrupting classes at UCLA. Meanwhile, this building, Moore Hall, is being clearly blocked by police. They have police barriers here, and they're all standing in front of it. So who's disrupting classes? That's my question. CBS or whoever this is, ABC? NBC. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly look at that. We do not need to watch the rest of that video where they don't really go into any important context, instead vilify the protesters for most of it. But let's quickly look at this. Oh shit. Hold on. I forgot that I have to look at where I have this lined up. This is an entire press conference at the White House with Karine Jean-Pierre and what's his name? John Kirby. They both speak, but I have spots I want to look at. Okay, yeah. Start right around here. Fucking with John Kirby.
Matters if we can get the deal in place, and I'm sure Director Burns would agree with me on that, and those hostages can get home. But he's done terrific work thus far, and I know that he wants to see that get this across the finish line just as much as we do. John.
Thank you, Kareem. Admiral, on a different topic, reports breaking this last few minutes that a U.S. soldier has been detained in Russia. This apparently happened in the last few days. The reporting is he had been stationed in Korea, traveled to Russia on his own. He's being accused of some sort of theft. Is the administration aware of this report?
Yes.
What can you tell us about what happened?
I can't really say much about it right now, Jonathan. I hope you can understand.
Wait, sorry. I gotta listen to that question again. I was reading chat. This is the part I wanted to hear. Cops are making it worse. I agree. Well, it sounds like you two just need to trade some of your sleeping issues with one another. Although everybody deals with stress differently, so I can understand the plight.
He's being accused of some sort of theft. Korea, traveled to Russia on his own. He's being accused of some sort of theft. Is the administration aware of this report?
Yes.
What can you tell us about what happened?
I can't really say much about it right now, Jonathan. I hope you can understand that, and certainly it's a better question put to our DoD colleagues, but we are aware of this case.
Okay, and real quick, we're 36 minutes in. They start the press conference around 6 minutes in. For approximately 30 minutes straight, John Kirby doesn't answer a single question.
Another matter just related to Russia. There's been threats from Moscow in the last couple of days about striking British military facilities because of and also simulating nuclear drills as it sharply rises tensions because of weapons manufactured in the UK being used in the conflict. This says it could potentially apply to other allied countries as well, theoretically the United States. Do you have a response to that?
Well, what I'd say, number one, is it's just reckless and irresponsible for the leader of a major nuclear-armed power to be saber-rattling the way that he is with respect to potential use for nuclear weapons. Obviously, we monitor this and have continued to monitor this very closely. I can tell you we've seen nothing, even despite the reckless rhetoric, that would cause us to change our strategic deterrent posture. And look, lastly, if Mr. Putin and Russian officials are worried about their troops in Ukraine, getting hit with weapons from other countries, then the easiest thing to do is just take your troops and leave.
There are reports of AFP right now that Israel is committing airstrikes on Rafah, intense airstrikes on Rafah right now.
Okay, so before we let this reporter answer the question, since it was in the same interview, I didn't want to watch this interview twice, but I just thought it was important for us to see what fucking John Kirby here had to say about the Russia rhetoric surrounding nuclear weapons right now. They aren't concerned, supposedly, although John Kirby's face always looks concerned, which gives me a lot of pause. Anyway, let's listen to this, because this is where I genuinely got upset while watching this.
There are reports of AFP right now that Israel is committing airstrikes on Rafah, intense airstrikes on Rafah right now. What would that timing mean to the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister?
Well, sir, you know something I don't know. I haven't seen those reports. I can't confirm it. I'll just go back to what I've said. I don't know, half a dozen, if not more times today. We don't support operations in Rafah that put people at greater risk.
Okay, so if you heard him, or if you didn't hear him, let me say this again. For John Kirby, he just said he's unaware of any airstrikes in Rafah. When I heard this, I thought to myself, wow, that's strange. I could have sworn that for the last, 3 months we've been watching them airstrike Rafah. Am I losing my mind? But no, obviously I'm not. But also, there were reports of airstrikes today, and we're going to look at all that. But first, we have another spot to look at before we leave this stupid video. Okay, like 47 minutes. Okay, hold on. Let me just move this. But yeah. State, what is he? Defense Secretary? No. No, he's spokesman for, shit. Well, yeah, shit. But yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that he is brazen enough to claim that he's not aware of any of that. Or if he isn't aware of it, what in the fuck is he getting paid for exactly? Be aware of something. Especially in this thing. Like, how are you not aware of this? Like, it's been in the news repeatedly. Maybe he was just referring to this specific airstrike, but it just really confuses me, considering the intelligence apparatus that the United States has, that he would be unaware and unprepared to make a comment on that. Hold on, we gotta get to this next spot. Alright, let's listen to Corinne Jean-Pierre here.
Voted against, but we can't stop now. Through the Safe America plan, the president is calling on Congress to invest $37 billion to support law enforcement and crime prevention. Every family deserves to live in a safe community. With that, Songmei?
You had another school, Columbia University, announced this morning that they're canceling.
This is 720. This is ugly as fuck.
Concerned that the situation on college campuses is not calming down, despite what the president said last week.
So I want to quote what the president said from last week, as you laid that out for me. And here's a quote: "Peaceful protest in America, violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest." And it is.
Oh my god. So that rhetoric is so fucked and completely afactual, right? And it's just so focused on the wrong shit. I really couldn't be more disappointed with that sort of statement coming from Corinne Jean-Pierre. For fuck's sake. First off, there's been zero violence from protesters. Like the the anti-war protesters. There's been effectively zero, right? And we just watched a video where they weren't actually blocking anybody from going to class. They were just outside of classes protesting. And if people feel like they can't go to class because of that, that is something that, you know, I think needs to be considered by the people who are struggling to go walk by protests, peaceful protests. And her suggestion that somehow people are just destroying everything is just complete nonsense. Morbius just did a chat drive-by. Yes, he did. I don't see him in here very much. Okay, what's next? Okay, yeah. So just to kind of push back on this whole John Kirby bullshit, let's look at a few different videos. This is from 3 months ago. Airstrike in Rafah, an Israeli-designed, designated safe zone, kills 16.
Smoke billows from an explosion near the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, where trucks had begun bringing in some much-needed aid, part of a deal brokered by Qatar. But it's far too late for far too many. In Rafah City, an Israeli airstrike killed 16 in this house.
You kill me and then send me medications. Killing my children and sending over medications? Seriously?
3 months into Israel's assault on Gaza, there's a split between the U.S. administration and the Netanyahu government over a path for an eventual Palestinian state, something the U.S. supports.
But there is no way to solve their long-term challenges, to provide lasting security, and there is no way to solve the short-term challenges of rebuilding Gaza and establishing governance in Gaza and providing security for Gaza without the establishment of a Palestinian state.
But the Israeli Prime Minister says there will be no Palestinian state while he is in...
Okay. Moving along. This is from 2 weeks ago, where Palestinians evacuate area of Rafah just before Israeli strikes. No, don't do this. Okay. And here's 6 days ago. Israel Gaza. UN chief calls Israel's airstrike in Rafah an unbearable escalation. This is regarding a different strike.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has just said that an Israeli offensive on Rafah would be an unbearable escalation. He was responding to Benjamin Netanyahu's comments that Israel will carry out an operation in Rafah regardless of whether a ceasefire deal is reached with Hamas. The Israeli Prime Minister was speaking at a meeting with the families of hostages where he reiterated that Israel would eliminate Hamas and achieve total victory. Take a listen.
We will enter Rafah because we have no other choice. We will destroy the Hamas battalions there. We will complete all the objectives of the war, including the repatriation of all our abductees.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister there saying Israel would enter Rafah regardless of a deal and despite its main ally.
Hold on. Just want to get us to the spot where we talk about this. Shit, where is it? Oh, it's right here.
hard is Mr. Blinken's job going to be now, given the rhetoric from Mr. Netanyahu today about the inevitability of a Rafah offensive?
Well, he hasn't put a timescale on that offensive. I'm sure that the US State Department won't find that particularly helpful. They've also reiterated their view that they have not yet seen what they say is a credible Israeli plan that would address their humanitarian concerns about the plight of the Palestinians in Rafah. The US does not want to see a US operation in Rafah. Yet the mood music that's coming out of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today is very robust, all about total victory of pursuing the last remaining Hamas battalions. To some extent, he's throwing a bone to the heart.
Okay, I can't remember where in this video it speaks specifically about the UN condemning the airstrikes in Rafah from a week ago, but let's just bring it back to current. This is from 14 hours ago, where a airstrike was visible in the direction of Rafah from, I believe this must have been from like Israel or something, where this was taken, like this footage. But you can see that another airstrike has hit Rafah today, or in the last 24 hours. And we're just going to look at a different set of footage from the same incident.
Right now, Israel appears to be moving ahead with plans to move into the southern Gaza city of Rafah. That's where Israel says thousands of Hamas fighters are hiding. Now, this video is from earlier today, showing smoke rising from explosions as Israel's military carried out those airstrikes. Israel is ordering Palestinians who are in eastern Rafah, that's the red part on the map, to evacuate and go to an area.
So I just find it fascinating that John Kirby was unaware of the fact that Rafah has been getting struck by air, from the air, by Israel over and over and over again. And how he would not be aware of any of these airstrikes completely baffles me. Especially because the United States has supposedly taken the stance that going into Rafah, attacking Rafah, is unacceptable. Meanwhile, it has continued to happen, and now they are threatening to invade on land. I mean, like, by, you know, by way of land. Shit is completely just out of control. The situation is completely out of control, it seems like. It doesn't seem like the Israeli government will be listening to the United States at all unless we actually attach consequences to the shit that they're doing. But it is seemingly unlikely that we will do anything even remotely resembling that. Okay. What do I got next here? Alright, let's watch this. From Zateo. Mehdi Hassan. On the truth about Israel and the hostages.
As Israel prepares to invade Rafah, violate Joe Biden's red line, and kill who knows how many more thousands of innocent men, women, and children in Gaza, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about the hostages. Because the Israelis say this is all about the hostages. They say we don't talk about the hostages enough. So let's do that. Let's talk today about the hostages, because there are three very important things they don't tell you about the hostages. First, for everyone who believes that Benjamin Netanyahu and his government of far-right fascists and racists are fighting their war in Gaza in order to rescue the hostages, how do they explain the fact that Netanyahu had a chance to bring all of the civilian hostages home right at the very beginning? Those aren't my words. That's not my opinion. It's the view of Chaim Rubenstein, who until very recently was a spokesman for the families of the Israeli hostages, and who said last week, quote, "We learned that Hamas offered on October 9th or 10th to release all the captive civilians in its hands if the IDF did not enter the Gaza Strip, but the government rejected the offer." In fact, the Washington Post reported on a similar proposal at the end of October, saying Hamas was proposing to release all foreign civilian hostages in exchange for a 5-day ceasefire. Israeli civilian hostages would be released if additional demands were met, he said, including the release of Palestinian women and children in Israeli prisons and the opening of the Rafah border crossing. Second, for everyone who pops up on my Twitter feed to still tell me, well, Hamas could end this war if they just released all the hostages, have they paid any attention to anything the Israeli government...
I couldn't imagine being the person thinking, I need to go correct Mehdi Hassan on Twitter right now.
...actually said on this subject? Israeli officials have said time and again that the war won't end until Hamas is destroyed, regardless of whether the hostages are released. Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's finance minister, made clear this week he was opposed to any hostage release deal that stopped Israel from going into Rafah. Now, you might say, that's just Smotrich, he's not in charge. Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said this week that he would invade Rafah with or without a deal on the hostages. His words, not mine. And third,
aren't I a good
something
guy?
that keeps being left out of the mainstream media, ignored by all those who claim to care about hostages, is that the hostages at the core of this conflict, at the heart of this current round of killing and violence, aren't just Israelis, they're Palestinians too. Yes, Palestinians too, because while we're all aware of the fact that around 250 hostages were taken from Israel by Hamas and other armed groups on October the 7th, including, shamefully, children, and around 130 hostages remain in captivity in Gaza, we don't really mention the hundreds, thousands of Palestinians who've been rounded up, detained, held without trial, tortured, sexually abused without any charges, let alone any convictions, in Israeli prisons. And I'm not even talking about just since October the 7th. I'm talking about before October the 7th. According to the Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, on the eve of the October 7th attacks, at the end of September 2023, Israel was holding over 1,300 Palestinians as hostages in what they conveniently call administrative detention. Around half of them for a year or more, and 23 of them, shamefully, children, held without trial, without charge. The reality is that under international law, hostage-taking is a war crime, whether Palestinians or Israelis do it, just as intentionally targeting and killing civilians is a war crime, whether Palestinians or Israelis do it. So...
He is right, once again. Completely unsurprisingly. Just about everything that Mehdi says seems to be on point. Especially since leaving MSNBC. Okay, what to do next? Okay, yeah, we're gonna quickly look at this. Maybe not super quickly, honestly, because this really does deserve a second look. Not a different look, but a second. This is from 9 hours ago. Forbes breaking news. We support media freedom. State Department spokesman criticizes Israel closure of Al Jazeera.
Go ahead.
You know what? I'm going to surprise you because I don't want, before we get into the long back and forth about Rafah and the ceasefire, I want to ask you if you can just answer this straight and simply and straight about the Israeli closure of Al Jazeera. What is your response?
So we have seen the announcement from the government of Israel about closing Al Jazeera. We have made quite clear that we support media freedom all around the world, including in Israel, and that we are quite concerned about this action.
You're quite concerned about this action? Are you asking the Israelis to do anything?
So, as the president said on May 3rd, journalists and media workers are an essential part of any democracy because well-informed dissent is critical to building stronger and more successful societies, and we will continue to support and advocate for free and independent media around the world. We think Al Jazeera ought to be able to operate in Israel as they operate in other countries in the region.
So you oppose?
We do.
You oppose?
We do.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Cool. A rare State Department W. By W, I just mean saying the right thing at the right time for once. But will it mean anything? Unlikely. I think a lot more drastic action needs to be taken to stop what's happening right now over there. All right, let's look at this from Global News. An attack on press freedom. Israel orders shutdown of Al Jazeera in Israel.
Israel has banned Qatar-owned broadcaster Al Jazeera. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the decision Sunday. In his message on X, formerly Twitter, Netanyahu said his cabinet voted unanimously to shut down Al Jazeera's local offices in Israel. The ban goes into effect immediately and could include confiscating equipment, preventing the channel's broadcasts, and blocking its websites. The Foreign Press Association in Israel described the move as a dark day for democracy. And this decision comes at a time when Qatar continues to try to mediate talks for a ceasefire in Gaza.
We strongly condemn and denounce this criminal.
Okay. So yeah, like I've been saying this for a while, or at least the last 24 hours over the situation, but it is completely unacceptable this is happening. It completely flies in the face of Israel's supposed democracy. Al Jazeera is the only news network that has been on the ground in Gaza getting the news out, and now Israel is making it illegal for them to do their jobs. To discuss this in even further context, Democracy Now! Interviewed someone from, I believe, Al Jazeera, if I'm not mistaken, and had a discussion about this. So let's look at this from 14 hours ago. From Democracy Now! Criminal act, quote unquote. Israel bans Al Jazeera, largest international news organization in Gaza, ahead of Rafah invasion. Yeah, the timing is not lost on me.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Israel's ordered 100,000 Palestinians living in eastern Rafah to evacuate ahead of an Israeli offensive on the southern Gaza city, where more than 1.4 million displaced Palestinians have sought refuge. This comes as Israeli authorities have taken Al Jazeera off the air inside Israel. On Sunday, police officers raided the network's Jerusalem bureau, seizing broadcasting equipment. Israel's Foreign Press Association called it a, quote, dark day for democracy. The move came just 2 days after World Press Freedom Day. Over the past 8 months, Al Jazeera has been one of the only international outlets with reporters on the ground inside Gaza. This is a pre-recorded video message by Al Jazeera's Imran Khan from East Jerusalem.
If you're watching this pre-recorded report, then Al Jazeera has been banned in the territory of Israel. On April the 1st, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, passed a law that allowed the Prime Minister to ban Al Jazeera. He's now enacted that law. Let me just take you through some of the definitions within the law. They've banned our website, including anything that has the option of entering or accessing the website, even passwords that are needed, whether they're paid or not, and whether it's stored on Israeli servers or outside of Israel. The website is now inaccessible. They're also banning any device used for providing content. That includes my mobile phone. If I use that to do any kind of news gathering, then the Israelis can simply confiscate it. Our internet access provider, the guy that simply hosts AlJazeera.net, is also in danger of being fined if they host the website. The Al Jazeera TV channel completely banned. Transmission by any kind of content provider is also banned, and holding offices or operating them in the territory of Israel by the channel. Also, once again, any devices used to provide content for the channel can be taken away by the Israelis. It's a wide-ranging ban. We don't know how long it will be in place for, but it does cover this territory of the State of Israel. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, occupied East Jerusalem.
Yeah, that's just as hard to watch as it was the first time when we did these yesterday after it was just released. This shit is insane. And I think it's pretty obvious what Israel's doing. They're attempting to shut down the only news network covering what's happening in Gaza from the ground to help cover up what they're about to try and do in Rafah. And it is glaringly obvious that this can't be allowed. But who's going to stop them? That's the question.
Again, that's a pre-recorded video message by Al Jazeera correspondent Imran Khan from East Jerusalem. As the death toll in Gaza approaches 35,000, with more than 78,000 people wounded in Israeli attacks since October 7th, we're joined in Doha, Qatar, by Mohammed Moawad, managing editor of Al Jazeera, joining us from the studios of Al Jazeera. Welcome to Democracy Now! Can you start off by responding to Israel's move and what this means for Al Jazeera?
Thank you, Sammy, for having me, and thanks for following this story. It's a series of intimidations that the Israeli government are placing on us, and this move is within the same loop of failure that the Israeli government have entered since the beginning of this war. First, they have intimidated us to try and stop the message, the coverage of Al Jazeera from inside Gaza. Then after they have failed, they shot the messenger, actually 3 messengers of Al Jazeera, 3 correspondents, and that did not stop our coverage. So now they are back again and trying to stop our coverage or try to delegitimize the coverage by saying that we don't operate in Israel. And we consider this an attack on the journalistic community in all, and we consider it a criminal act, because this is against and a violation, a clear violation to the international human rights laws.
Can you explain what happened?
It's a criminal act. It does seem to be. Certainly does seem to be. It's fucking unacceptable. Regardless of the criminality. The fact is, it's not like a bunch of Israeli citizens are watching Al Jazeera, right? They just don't want the rest of the world to see what's happening.
This weekend, how you found out that Al Jazeera was banned, the raiding of your offices in Jerusalem. Describe the whole sequence.
If you go back like 3 months back, the Israeli government have been threatening Al Jazeera, intimidating Al Jazeera by saying that they are going to vote for a law to block Al Jazeera for 45 days under the umbrella of the emergency actions that they are taking because of the war, the ongoing war. So we've been hearing that, like our colleagues at Haaretz, who were threatened to be defunded because they are against the national security of Israel, as the Prime Minister Netanyahu's government stated. We've been hearing that they are going to put the vote for the cabinet to pass, and it took them 3 months. Up until yesterday, they have listed it on the top of the agenda of the government. They voted in favor anonymously, and the Minister of Communications took actions on the ground to block our coverage by seizing our signal with the cable companies in Israel and raiding our locations. They have raided a remote location, live position, where our colleagues at Al Jazeera English were broadcasting, and they have placed a blockade on our office in Jerusalem. And of course, this law is ambiguous. I mean, they can take actions as much as the Prime Minister Netanyahu is concerned. They can do the same with our office in Ramallah in the West Bank, because they can say that this is under the umbrella of the emergency law.
Okay, there's more to the interview, but I think that he said probably everything that needed to be said in that few minutes there. It's just pathetic that Israel feels they need to continue covering up what they're doing. Everybody sees what's happening at this point, and it's very telling that they're that they would do this directly before their very much publicly foreshadowed invasion of Rafah. Speaking of which, let's talk about this. This is from 22 hours ago from Al Jazeera. Israel orders Rafah evacuation ahead of military operation. This came out right before I ended the stream yesterday, or like right after I ended the stream.
We begin this with breaking news now from Rafah. The Israeli army has warned all residents and displaced people to leave the eastern neighborhoods of Rafah. It says they must move to the Al-Mawasi area near the coastline. That's ahead of what it says will be the use of extreme force in the eastern part of the city. More than 1.5 million people have been sheltering in Rafah after the Israeli army forced them out of northern and central Gaza. Well, we're joined now by Hani Mahmoud, who's in Rafah in southern Gaza. Hani, what's happening there on the ground right now?
It is amazing that this guy is still here, and he just keeps looking rougher and rougher by the day.
Yes, well, following an intense night of extreme airstrikes, relentless airstrikes across the eastern and the central part of Rafah city, caused the murder of 20 people so far, mostly women and children. The Israeli military, as early hours this morning, issued statements along with a map for evacuation. The orders are very extreme, very sharp, and use intimidating language describing what's going to happen in the eastern part of the city, along with the use of extreme force and an extreme military operation is going to take place at the eastern part of Rafah city. That includes...
Okay, I just wanted to stop it on this map, and talk about this for a second. Shit, I don't have a picture set up for this, but I need to do that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know when this image is from exactly. Can I open it? What? Don't open in GIMP. Are you kidding me? Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Alright, fuck it. Alright. Now, if you haven't seen the pictures in a while, this is what Khan Yunis looked like. I don't even know when. I'd have to actually go and look at when this picture was taken. It doesn't say it here on Google. But this is some of the destruction that we've seen in Khan Yunis. It is northern, or it's like central Gaza, which has seen a massive amount of bombing. from Israel. So it is, you know, completely destroyed, essentially. It's like 90%, 95% destroyed. Just crumbling buildings and massive potholes created by bombs and missiles. And this is where Israel is suggesting the 1.5 million people in Rafah right now currently go. Or at least some portion of them.
The area eastern of Salah ad-Din Road and almost close to the center Rafah city, that's at the western part of Salah ad-Din Road, that will include definitely Rafah crossings. And as of yesterday, we learned that Karma Abu Salim crossing is being completely shut down, and the operation right now that is included, Rafah crossing right now, including in the evacuation orders, will be closed as soon as the operation.
Oh my god. I can't unsee it now. I think I see what you're saying. It looks like a sock puppet. It looks like a sock puppet. Oh, you see the yellow part as a nose? See, I see it as like a sock puppet with a face. These two eyes. Got the lips here.
It started in the eastern part of Rafah city. People are in a state of panic and shock, despite that they expected that to happen, but did not expect it to happen rapidly. We were approached by people who were asking about where are the evacuation zones, and we looked at the maps, and what we've seen so far, it stretches from the central area, from Deir al-Balah city, passing through Khan Yunis, mainly in the central part of Khan Yunis and the western part of Khan Yunis, all the way to the evacuation zone here in western part of Rafah city. These are the three major areas.
Okay. That's all I wanted to see from this video. Just what it is exactly the Israeli army is asking the people in Rafah to do. It was really this visualization right here that I found to be most important, considering it's fucking insane. Moving people around like that is just in this way, just so you can go and bomb another part of of this country. It's just disgusting. And the fact is, many people won't be able to move fast enough, or will be hit by bombs, quote unquote, unintentionally, right? Or, you know, anybody that gets left behind is going to be Hamas. And this shit is going to lead to a fucking disgusting atrocity, a massacre. And it's just, we've been talking about it for months, how it's unacceptable. They've been saying they wanted to do it, and now they are literally on the cusp. Alright, we're just gonna look at a couple more things. Well, more than a couple of things about this. But let's look at this from NBC News from 18 hours ago. The Israeli military instructs 100,000 people to evacuate East Rafah.
All the spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces at a briefing confirmed that there is an ongoing evacuation of about 100,000 people from eastern Rafah. Now, he didn't say how long this is going to take, but he said that this is not a widespread evacuation, but it only affects the eastern part of the town. It also confirmed, the IDF also confirmed that they are informing residents, including dropping flyers, encouraging them to
more
move
flyers.
To what they say is an extended humanitarian area, in particular to Al-Mawasi, which is a town on
those flyers are a goddamn dystopian nightmare. Beyond like the rest of it, it's just fucking insane for them to think that that's somehow an acceptable way to tell people to leave. This shit is fucking, I mean, telling people to leave in this situation is obviously just fucked in anyway, but it's like sending, it's like, I don't know, breaking up over text or something, but in the worst genocidal possible way.
Gaza's coastline officially to allow them to have more access to humanitarian aid. But the fear is that this is in preparation for the much announced and anticipated ground military invasion or operation by Israel into Rafah. Now, this has been discouraged several times continuously by humanitarian organizations and allies of Israel, including the United States, for fear that this operation could lead to a humanitarian catastrophe.
There's already a humanitarian catastrophe going on. If they go in there, it will be just a pure massacre of proportions probably not seen in the 21st century. And the fact is, they don't have anywhere to go, right? We just looked at those pictures of Khan Yunis. It's fucking dangerous to be in Khan Yunis. The entire place is crumbling due to the bombing campaign that has been carried out. And telling people, children, sick people, old people, people in general, to go back there right now with zero infrastructure there, with zero, you know, like with nothing. And it's also, I would point out, it in an even more difficult spot to get aid to, at least from my estimation. And it's just insane. It's to think that it's okay to put people in a place where, I mean, like, for instance, like, you could just be walking and get smushed by not a bomb, not a bullet, but by falling concrete. The place is not stable. You look at the footage from that area right now, and it is not safe to just be there, let alone the military threat. Let alone the obvious arguments against, you know, just obvious ethnic cleansing, right? Just pure, just trying to be, you know, making the argument from a, what do you call it? Oh God, fuck it. All right, I'm just gonna move on. Okay, this is what's next. Let's go to this from Al Jazeera, where they talk to Marwan Bashara. Gaza ceasefire could end Netanyahu's leadership. War continuation could end Biden's.
We're learning some more information about the contents of this deal. Here it is. That the ceasefire proposal includes 3 phases, each of them lasting 42 days, so about 6 weeks. The first phase of the deal includes providing passage for displaced Palestinians to return to their homes. The second phase of the deal
I'm sorry, I forgot to start this with, hey, check this out. Hamas has accepted a deal proposed by Egypt and Qatar. So this is partly a discussion of that. I forgot that was in this video as well, because our next video is regarding that. Anyway, yeah, there was a ceasefire proposal crafted by Egypt and Qatar, and yeah, Hamas has accepted it. It is now on Israel to also accept it.
The withdrawal of Israeli troops and cessation of military operations. In the third stage of the deal, there's also a provision on ending the blockade on the Gaza Strip, which has been in place for 17 years. Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bashara, joins us in the studio. Marwan, we're in the middle of something that we can't define yet, because we have one side to this agreement that has accepted it, the other side hasn't.
Well, I'll tell you something. Certainly, we've been here for the first time over the past 7 months. And clearly, Hamas's positive response to the mediator's proposal for a ceasefire has shocked and has took everyone by surprise, especially those in Israel, but perhaps also in the United States. And that's why they are clamoring now to understand what exactly is the response, how positive is it, and what does it really mean towards moving forward. Will there be then a pick-up negotiations, if you will, over the agreement of the agreement in Cairo, and then when you start the phases and so on and so forth. But clearly, it's a huge positive step in the right direction towards a ceasefire. That there is no doubt about. And I think from my understanding, probably in paragraph 5, that's where you find the key to the change of heart or mind, right? I'm talking about technicality now. They talk about sustained quiet. It's a euphemism for a permanent ceasefire.
Yeah.
So Israel does not want to hear the word ceasefire because clearly Netanyahu cannot sell it to his cabinet. Hamas, apparently because of the various pressures and mediations, accepted finally to sustained quiet as the alternative to a permanent ceasefire.
This is, I want your thoughts on this. I'm listening keenly. You say sustained quiet and the words that they're having to choose so that they might get agreement on both sides, two sides that don't really want the same thing, because one wants to end the war, the other one, as far as we can tell from their public pronouncements, wants to continue the war, and that's Israel.
Yep. Israel wants to continue this war because a lot of people, if they don't, will face a lot of objections from people who just want the genocide of Palestinians wholeheartedly. It's a disgusting sort of vibe, if you will, but it is it's a reality. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu does not want to accept a fucking ceasefire. If he does, he's not going to be kept around. And unfortunately, I was planning on watching more of this, but within the time that I was watching this, things devolved slightly. But before we get into the devolving of it, let's at least quickly look at this. We're gonna skip this first one, go straight to this. We can at least see how excited people fucking were when when a ceasefire was announced. Now, you might be asking me, StreamLord, why are you watching this if the deal has devolved? Well, for this particular reason. I've heard throughout this last 7 months of this situation that's been going on here, I have heard time and time again people saying things like, oh, the Palestinians are always out there celebrating violence and killing and stuff like that. Well, Exhibit A of the counterpoint right here in front of your eyes. Okay? These people are celebrating peace. The entire street is filled with fucking children and other and adults, right? All celebrating the idea of peace. Just to drive that home, let's watch one more.
الحمد لله يعني الشعور الفرحة بعد الحزن كنا قاب قوسين أو أدنى يعني.
Praise be to Allah, the feeling of joy after sadness. We were just around the corner. We were afraid and we did not know where we were going, and we did not know what to do. And suddenly, Allah's command came for us. So yeah, I just wanted us to look at that, to know that Palestinians want peace. Just can't forget that. They really do. Okay. So, like I was saying, unfortunately, things regarding this peace, this accepted peace deal from Hamas, which was brokered by Egypt and Qatar, did devolve rather quickly. Israel did not like the terms, and yeah, we're going to look at that here. First, though, hold on. Is this what I think it is? I think I got to line this one up. This one really pissed me off.
As we've been
hold on, is this the one? No, it's not. We're just going to skip past this then. Yes, chat, that's right. Exactly. It doesn't mean terrorism good. It just means God is great. Which is something I feel like most people who are against it would actually be for if it was just a different God. Okay, let's move on to this next one. Not this one we're looking at, but this from BBC News 8 hours ago. Israel Gaza. Netanyahu says deal Hamas accepted is far from meeting Israel's demands. Maybe it's time for you to make a fucking compromise, asshole.
So, a lot in there. We know that they are celebrating in Gaza, but it seems that it is premature. It seems that it is too early to start celebrating. Hamas, a short while ago, said that it had agreed to a ceasefire deal, that it agreed to...
It's the same God, Jade Dragon. I would love to see you convince that to of a Christian. And I think I know where you're coming from with this in regards to them both being Abrahamic religions, but I would love to see you attempt to explain the nuance of that to a Christian that objects to that idea. It would be, I genuinely would enjoy that.
A deal that it has been working on with mediators from Qatar, Egypt. This was a deal that was backed by the United States. But it didn't spell out exactly what the terms of the deal would be. Some of those terms are understood because they have been talked about in public forums before. Some of the terms, however, are not exactly clear. The general framework is that it would be a multi-phase deal, take place over several stages, and that the first phase would see 33 hostages who were kidnapped on October 7th by Hamas freed in exchange for a 40-day ceasefire, 40-day cessation of hostilities. And that if that went well, there would be other phases to follow. There are nearly 130 hostages believed to be still in Gaza, and 93 of them still alive, the others having died during captivity. The issue is Israel has not confirmed that those are the terms of a deal that it is willing to accept. These negotiations are being carried out in secret. There are not written documents that are exchanged, at least that we are aware of, or written documents that are published publicly. So we're seeing Hamas saying that it has accepted a version of the deal that the two sides were working on, but Israel, according to unnamed still Israeli officials, saying that this is a ruse, this is a pressure tactic, this is a way to make Israel look like it is the one rejecting the deal instead of Hamas.
Jesus Christ.
Aren't I a good guy?
And we just went over this. We just talked about this. Mehdi Hassan just went deep on a deep dive on this. But it has been Israel. They've rejected multiple ceasefires, time and time again. They're just doing it again, and then trying to gaslight us all into thinking it's all Hamas's fault for attempting to broker a peace.
So it seems that both sides are talking in general terms about the same deal, but different interpretations of it.
Okay. I've had enough from you, CBS. Moving along. Jesus is a Roman god? Is that true? I think that might be true. I forget about that. I forget generally where Jesus supposedly, the stories of Jesus supposedly came from. Anyway, where are we right now? Okay. news. This is from 8 hours ago from Al Jazeera. This is an actual little bit of a progress. We devolved a little bit, and then we had a little more progress. A little devolving, then we progress. That's the situation right now. Yeah, this is actually slightly optimistic-ish news. Israeli war cabinet decides to send negotiators for talks. Oh, wait, we gotta look at this first. Hold on.
A very good evening. Hamas leaders have said they have agreed to a ceasefire proposal forward by Egypt and Qatar. The news sparks celebration in Gaza, but it may be premature. The Israelis are saying tonight the deal is not acceptable because they had agreed with the Americans as far back as February, a deal that has now been softened. What we know about this proposal is that it sets out a three-stage process, each lasting 42 days.
I find it really weird that they want to talk about a deal from February when there's been multiple deals since February that have been proposed and denied, and to somehow try and hold on to something from February in this manner just seems nonsensical. Obviously, they just prefer the terms of that deal, but it makes no sense to try and stick to something that both sides didn't agree to.
Would lead to a release of 33 hostages in return for Palestinian prisoners and a partial Israeli withdrawal. The second would lead to the release of all other living hostages. There are thought to be about 128 still alive. And the third phase would see a return of the bodies. The Israeli Defense Minister said this morning that the decision to expand the assault on Rafah had been taken because Hamas had rejected their ceasefire terms. So this has come as a surprise to the Israeli government. Let's go then live to Jerusalem. Our security correspondent Frank Gardner is there. Bring us up to speed, if you would, Frank, on the reaction there in Jerusalem.
Christian, things are moving incredibly fast here. Almost every minute there is a new update. And the latest, I should tell you, is that a senior Palestinian official, unnamed, has told our correspondent, one of my colleagues, that one of the things under consideration, and this is quite extraordinary, is that Hamas is even considering a long-term cessation of hostilities. In other words, giving up the armed struggle. Now, they haven't committed to that yet, and they would need to see this deal go through and for the truce to work. So there's an awful lot that could go wrong before then. But
I just find this amazing because it flies in the face of everything that Israel has been saying, right? That Hamas is dedicated to destroying, not just all Israelis, but all Jews all over the world. They'll never put their arms down. And once again, here we have an example of them literally saying that they may be willing to put down their arms for good. And it just, it's inconvenient to the narrative that's being pushed right now, which is why it's generally not brought up. That there is that sort of possibility for them to do this sort of things. But anyway, let's move on to this from Al Jazeera now, where Israel has sent its war cabinet to negotiations.
Okay, well, people have taken to the streets in Tel Aviv, also demanding a ceasefire, following Hamas's acceptance of a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egypt and Qatar. Families of the captives in Gaza say the Israeli government must show their commitment to its citizens, accept the deal and get the captives home. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has just released a statement also reacting to Hamas's response and also saying War Cabinet unanimously decided that Israel will continue the operation in Rafah to exert military pressure on Hamas. Although the Hamas proposal is far from Israel's necessary requirements, Israel will send a delegation of working-class mediators to exhaust the possibility of reaching an agreement under conditions acceptable to Israel. Okay, well, a remander to our viewers that Israel has shut down Al Jazeera's operations there, and we are reporting from outside Israel. Mohammed Jamjoon is now live for us in Amman. And Mohammed, let's unpack this statement. We know that the Cabinet Office has met. We know that they appear committed to this assault on Rafah. Do we have then our answer to what Israel thinks to this latest proposal?
Well, Neve, this very much seems like a sort of a holding pattern response, because Israel is under a lot of pressure right now. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel is under a lot of pressure, especially from his biggest ally, the United States. He's under pressure from also the societal pressure there, those demonstrators that we were talking about just a moment ago that are in the streets right now, as well as from his far right-wing members of his coalition, people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is still pushing for a Rafah operation. Even before this response that you just read out a moment ago, you had a couple of hours ago Itamar Ben-Gvir, far right-wing national security minister, and he put on X that Hamas's exercises and games have only one answer, an immediate order to occupy Rafah. That's consistent with the rhetoric we've heard from Ben-Gvir for months now. He's been urging the prime minister to go into Rafah, and on many occasions he's threatened that he would walk away from the coalition and essentially collapse Netanyahu's government if the prime minister doesn't follow through with that. So right now you have a situation
which is insane. It's fucking insane that Itamar Ben-Gvir will literally collapse the government of Israel just because they didn't complete the genocide. This shit is insane, okay? Like, the Likud is completely insane. It is a psychopathic party.
Where essentially, if this turns out to be the case, Israel is sort of having it both ways. They're saying that they will send a delegation to Cairo because up until now they had refused to do so unless and until they had gotten what they consider to be a positive response from Hamas. And at the same time, they say they're still going to go into Rafah. Now, when you break that down a little bit more, Netanyahu has been saying on almost a daily basis for months that he is going to go into Rafah, that is imminent, that would happen with or without a ceasefire. So in one sense, it's not really very different from what we've heard from him leading up to this point. But on the other hand, what's different is that they are saying that they are going to send a delegation to Cairo. And that is something that would satisfy the demands of people in the opposition, like Yair Lapid. He's the opposition leader in Cairo. And just a couple of hours ago, he put a statement on X in which he urged the prime minister to go ahead and send a delegation to Cairo because it was of utmost importance to do whatever was possible to get those captives that are being held in Gaza back to Israel. So it's
okay. Well, hope is not completely lost for a potential ceasefire deal. With Israel sending delegates there, it gives me, I don't know, 10% more hope. Even though I do have a great deal of skepticism about it, and I have gotten my hopes up before for different ceasefire deals, but I'm just going to continue to attempt to be optimistic in the face of so much evidence. Okay. The families demand a deal, but yeah, he doesn't care. Yep. Doesn't care. Okay, I think this might still be live. I don't know what's happening with this, but this is the Associated Press's live feed from Gaza, where Israel begins its military operation in Rafah. Hold on, I'm just going to skim through this video a little bit, see if we can actually pick out any actual movement of troops. This is technically live still. You can definitely hear a bunch of stuff in the background, although I'm pretty sure they're in Israel trying to film Gaza with a very large lens on their camera, so that it's not great footage. It seems kind of quiet, but it seems like also their cameras are probably not the best spots to pick up what's happening. Okay. But you can hear movement in the background. You can hear trucks and a number of other things. I'm not sure what that is. It could very well be. This may very well be at a settlement or something like that. Honestly, don't know. Oh wait, I just realized that we're not even on the screen where you can see what's happening. I've just been skimming through a video without showing you anything I'm looking at, so sorry, chat. Honestly, there was not a lot to see, so we're just gonna move this on. I just wanted to be as up to date with what was happening on this supposed invasion of Rafah that Israel's been talking about for months. Okay. Now, to our final video of the night. Well done, chat. You've made it this far. A round of applause. Pat yourself on the back. You did it. Okay. Why are you crying? What's happening? Alright, let's watch this video. This is from Al Jazeera English from 14 hours ago. The movement to break Israel's siege on Gaza. Now, this video is discussing the Freedom Flotilla that is attempting to break the siege on Gaza to bring aid by way of the sea. This is not the same thing as what the United States has been talking about. But yeah, let's watch this. Oh, wait.
Meanwhile, hundreds of trucks.
Hold on. Gotta line this up. Actually, I think we'll just start from the beginning. Definitely not gonna watch the whole thing.
Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, as aid barely trickles into Gaza, a group of activists
I gotta pee. I'll be right back, chat.
to break Israel's siege themselves.
We put Israel on notice that we were coming, that we were unarmed civilians carrying humanitarian aid, intending to deliver it directly to Gaza.
We hear the story of their years-long struggle. I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take. In the last few months, hundreds of civilian activists have been organizing where many of their governments have failed, trying to get tons of aid into Gaza. Among them is Huwaida Araf.
I'm a Palestinian American human rights attorney, and I am one of the coordinators of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla.
With land entrances blocked or highly restricted, it's a mission they intend to take by sea.
At a port in southern Turkey, this cargo ship is being loaded with aid that may well never be delivered.
This flotilla is an emergency flotilla to confront and challenge and try to break Israel's illegal siege on Gaza.
The movement to break Israel's naval blockade on Gaza has existed for more than a decade. Huwaida has been on 4 boats that have successfully done it, and 3 that haven't. And after October 7th, it became clear pretty quickly that they wanted to sail again.
We called an emergency meeting in Istanbul where we had people representing the various national campaigns fly in and determine whether or not we can send an emergency flotilla. We did take a decision that we had to try. And that was in mid-February. Within just a couple of months, slightly over 2 months, we were almost ready to go. Hundreds of people gathered in Istanbul from 40 countries around the world ready to set sail, carrying over 5,000 tons of life-saving aid for the people of Gaza.
That included civilians like Helen O'Sullivan, an educator from Australia.
We are watching what's happening every day on the news, and no one seems to be speaking up loud enough. We all have children. I have grandchildren. There's the age of those 12,000 plus children who have been killed already.
By April 25th, they were ready to go. And then
hundreds of activists aboard the Freedom Flotilla were blocked in Turkey as they attempted to set sail for the besieged Palestinian territory.
the delay is over administrative issues. Organizers say it was political pressure by Israel and the U.S.
It's a sad indictment, I guess, on the powerful nations of the world that civilians have to risk their lives to deliver food and baby formula to starving people. And our governments not only did not support our efforts, but expended energy to actively try to stop us.
To Huwaida, what they've encountered is a setback. She says they're still intending to set sail in the coming weeks, but Gaza is facing a famine, and weeks could make the difference.
Okay. God damn. I just took a hit from my... Oh, God. Just took a hit from my vape. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Okay. Serious time. More stuff to look at. At least more stuff to look at regarding this Freedom Flotilla. But we can't watch this whole thing. Alright, where to start? I think it's like right here.
At that point, the Israeli blockade that Gaza became known for was still new. It had only been put in place the year before.
Israel imposed its blockade on the Gaza Strip after Hamas was elected in 2006. Withholding of supplies and increased control of its residents effectively turned Gaza into the world's largest open-air prison.
Israel, along with Egypt, has maintained a siege on Gaza by land, air, and sea since 2007. The Israeli government says the blockade is a security measure to keep weapons from getting into Gaza. Huwaida and her fellow organizers wanted to challenge that logic by coming as peace activists.
And we had planned out all kinds of scenarios that, everyone might be arrested. Israel might try to sink our ships or blow our ship out of the water. We planned for all of these scenarios except for actually making it to Gaza. We definitely did not plan on making it in. But while we were at sea, we received a call on one of the sat phones informing us that Israel just announced that it was not going to intercept our boats. And that was just unbelievable, like a momentous occasion. And as we got closer to the Gaza port, it was incredible. Thousands and thousands of people rushed to the port because they had heard the news to welcome us. People were jumping in the sea to swim out to our boats. And the excitement and the love that was expressed was hard to explain and hard to understand. How, people so persecuted and traumatized and doing what they can to stay alive can show so much welcome, love, and compassion to foreigners coming from the countries that are complicit in this situation.
Okay. Well, I just thought that would be a nice sort of peaceful way to end our coverage here for today. at least more peaceful than the rest of it, even though there are plenty of very frustrating aspects to that little podcast. Just figured we would talk about something slightly more optimistic. Even though we all know it's not gonna necessarily be enough. And it's not the best way to get them aid, but I couldn't help it. But look at that. With people trying their damnedest with whatever they can to help. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Well, chat, looks like we made it through another one. It was phenomenal having you all here with me. Not sure I could get it done without you. Ah, so much slipping through my head after that journey through the void. My forehead is pounding. That's it for me, StreamLord. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, Robot Cat, Pitchforks Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. All these individuals you see here have helped in the production of this show. Thank them at your discretion. GNN wouldn't exist without them. You too can help by going to this link.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!